Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. August 1st, 2023. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Chris Young from the School Superintendent's Office, could you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, there's no changes to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that we approve the agenda as posted and allow Chair to deviate as necessary.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item is call to the public, and we're going to start with Juan Valderas.
Chairman of the board, board members, Juan Valderas, Chief Information Officer for the county. Just wanted to give you guys a couple of quick updates on some of the projects that we're working on. We're in the process of putting RFQ out for the replacement of the tower at the Rio Rico landfill. That will help us significantly improve communications for the Sheriff's Department and some other needs that the county has. The other one is the last meeting you approved the Red Mountain resolution. So we're moving ahead with that and notifying GovNet of our intent up at Red Mountain. So with that, that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next person to speak is Jose Perez. And then after Mr. Perez is going to be Gary Levine.
Hello, thank you. Good morning. My name is Jose Perez, 2074 Pendleton Drive, Rio Rico. So I have a statement here. Hello, my name is Jose Perez, and I've been living here in Santa Cruz County for 10 years. I moved from Los Angeles to find a quiet place where I could begin self-improvement and find a sense of peace. For a portion of my childhood, I grew up in a town named Erndale, located in San Gabriel Valley near Los Angeles, California. Erndale was originally established in 1860 by people traveling from Mexico, and in the early 1900s, commercial-scale aggregate mining was introduced. Aggregates such as gravel and crushed rock were mined daily and provided for Los Angeles. Over time, Erndale continued to develop, and everything seemed to be going just fine. But after a few years, many of the mines closed down and the town was in turmoil. The desolation was immense, and it took many years for economic recovery to occur. In response to losing money from the cutback in mining, the town was persuaded to become established as an industrial center for many big companies, which till this day is a catalyst for the unhealthy impact of the people and the environment. 7 generations later, people are still affected by the dust and water contamination of the mining and other large-scale operations still functional. Many people of Erndale do not realize that these unregulated ventures cause the illnesses of themselves, their ancestors, and their children. Growing up as a child in Erndale, I recognized the beauty of the people and the town. However, I did not know the ramifications of the Industrial Revolution until later. I'm grateful we moved out when we did because I could have some health issues as some of my older family members do today. Santa Cruz County is a beautiful place and the people are heartfelt and wholesome. We must protect ourselves from the mining companies and any conglomerates that would claim to be for the people but are selfish, greedy, and do not care of the impact of the land and people physically, psychologically, and spiritually. We may have won the battle against this new development, but nonetheless, we should continue to be aware and protect our families, our land, and our way of life. We should develop more volunteer-based foundations to be the strong voice of the people when matters such as this threaten not only us, but the future generations. We should seek sustainable methods of progressing as a society which uphold higher economic, social, and environmental standards. According to the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and I quote, "Sustainability is the biggest economic opportunity of our times," end quote. So let's put our minds, hearts, and energy to providing for Santa Cruz County the right way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we have Gary Levine, and next is going to be Ava Lawrence.
Good morning.
Morning, Gary.
members of the Board of Supervisors. First of all, I would like to say I very much appreciate and applaud what was said in Mr. Dillon's press release yesterday, that going forward, Santa Cruz County understands the importance of community input and is committed to fostering a transparent and inclusive public process. Since Mr. Dillon's press release only referred to that new policy with respect to community development, I would suggest that the Board of Supervisors also explicitly make clear that this will be the board's policy going forward as well. Okay. Please always remember that you were elected to represent the people here and serve the will of the people. I would also like to comment on the agenda item with respect to South 32's grant of $111,000 to our schools. I believe that the board now recognizes that a great many of your constituents have very strong feelings about South 32, and I hope that going forward the board will fully take into account our views and not be swayed by dollar signs. I fully support more money for our schools and our kids. I have kids and grandkids. However, given what has just transpired, as well as South 32's stated interest in locating a battery-grade manganese processing facility here in either Rio Rico or possibly Santa Cruz County, the timing of this grant certainly raises some questions. Any reasonable person on the outside would certainly view the timing of this $111,000 grant as an attempt to influence our county supervisors in their official capacity. That in turn raises some legal questions. I believe that the Board of Supervisors should not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ava, good morning. And next up is, oh man, Kazarian. Kazarian.
Rhymes with barbarian.
My apologies. You're next.
Hello, everyone. I am Eva Zion Lawrence, and I live on 2074 Pendleton Drive in Rio Rico. I have lived in Rio Rico since I was 4 years old, so it's over 15 years now, and I have gone through school and I have graduated and continue to live my life here in Rio Rico. This is where I and many of my loved ones have put down roots. I think we all have our special stories, our families and our loved ones, and I think we all care about our quality of life and the quality of life for those we love. I believe that we all have a right and a responsibility to protect the land we live on. As a resident, I strongly oppose the mining and zoning of my home, and I oppose mining and processing anywhere in Rio Rico. Although Andrew Jackson has withdrawn his mining and rezoning in this one area, it is by no means indicates that our environment is safe from mining. South 32 is still very much alive and well, and I believe that we need to continue to voice our opposition. Mining would impact the soil and water quality, as well as the air quality, which is detrimental to all of our health and our lifestyles. And I urge the Board of Supervisors, as well as all of us, to keep in mind the impact mining would have. There are other ways to generate revenue that are sustainable, and we should work on finding eco-friendly solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kasarian.
Not going to try the last name either, huh?
I'm going to let you pronounce it first.
No problem.
And then Ms. Woosen? Alma? I can't read the handwriting, I'm sorry.
Kazarian Gianangelo. I live at 2074 North Pendleton Drive. I'm 45 years old, and I've had great opportunity in my 45 years to live in 3 different places. 15 years on San Juan Island, Friday Harbor, Washington, which is up in the Pacific Northwest. San Juan Island is only 55 square miles, very small piece of land compared to the over 1,200 square miles that Santa Cruz County is. And so I have a great sense of concentrated space, and I think that some of those things do translate to the smallest county here in Arizona. My wife was not able to be here today. She's a local school teacher, but I also represent her. She's from Brazil, And her and I have both chosen to settle down here in Rio Rico as well as start a family here. So the future definitely looks bright for us in this location, and we have no intention of leaving this location. I also spent 15 years in Sedona, Arizona, which has a great reputation as being a place of spirituality. 15 to 20, 30 years ago when I first moved to Sedona, it was a different vibe there. And I watched over those 15 years as Sedona became overdeveloped, as money flooded the planning of Sedona, and how it got ruined in a lot of ways because of the over-commercialization through things. During that time, I was a tour guide there, so I have a lot of experience in recognizing what people want to come to and what they want to experience in a place. And I also want to just mention about Santa Cruz County and our local area here that it does have an inherent holiness to it. I'm an ordained minister, and I wanted to speak to the fact that on the seal of our state of Arizona is Didat Deus, God enriches. I am a man of language. I love the things that we have, why they're called the things they're called, and all those things. We don't call our local town Rio Sucio. We don't call it the poor river. It is the rich river, and it does have many riches. This is not Malvado Cruz County. This is Santa Cruz County. It is a holy county. It is a holy land. It is the palm of God's hand. And I would just encourage the formation, not just of discovering a chamber of commerce. I always like to say that everybody has a chamber of commerce, but nobody has a chamber of culture. And then we need those people who are working in order to counterbalance the commercialization of our lands and bring greater culture to our home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Armand Warson.
Thank you. My name is Annan Wanson, and I am a resident of 2073 Pendleton Drive, Rio Rico. Today I would like to present the 10 operations of South 32 in Australia, Brazil, Colombia, Chile, South Africa, and now the United States. South 32 spun out of BHP Billiton on May 18, 2015. From Latin America to Oceania, there has been left a trail of environmental, social, and public health disasters. In doing so, they have left communities and landscapes scarred, while the work and the cost to heal and restore is left to the hands of others, often an impossible feat, showing a history of company spin-offs to try and distance themselves from the problems they have created. Do not be fooled, South 32 and BHP are still one and the same. In Australia, South 32 was fined $2.9 million for drawing on water for 5 years at its underground coal mine near Wollongong without a permit. The company drained 5 megaliters of drinking water from the catchment area every day between 2018 and 2023. The Illawarra Alpine mine disaster, where 14 people were killed in an explosion from a buildup of poisonous methane gas. Both the state and the mine owners were found guilty of contributing to the explosion. Brazil. South 32 has revealed its tailings dams in Australia and Brazil would generate a high or significant hazard if they were to failure, and failure is only a matter of time. Chile. Sierra Gorda copper and molybdenum mine plagued with problems for years after it started production. The mine failed to meet production expectations due to challenging and difficulties in using seawater for processing. Colombia. Sierra Matosa nickel mine and smelter. South 32 responsible for irreparable damage to local communities and was ordered to compensate them after alarming high rates of miscarriage, birth defects, and cancer were widespread. They received a court order to reapply for their mining licensing as well as operations and did not reflect current environmental standards. Unpaid royalties still stand. South Africa. With South 32's 3 operations in South Africa, there has been documented evidence of significant failures to protect women's rights and currently trying to extricate itself from its struggling South African coal operations, which are likely to be spun off into a separate company in the following months. What a surprise. I implore you on the board to rethink what South 32 will do to our home of Santa Cruz County. Let us not be next on the list to jump on a quick pipe dream of better tomorrows, to only look back to a wasteland of yesterdays. This mining project will cause extreme hardship, including extinction, for all the life forms that live in our special region. The Patagonia Mountains are part of the Sky Islands, identified by scientists as one of the top 5 regions in the world most in need of protection for species survival. Once mining stops, the money goes, all that's left is desolation. Eco-mining does not exist. We do not want a company town. We do not want mining, the process of manganese, the sickness that comes with it, or anything else that comes with mining operations in Santa Cruz County. Not now, not ever. Thank you.
Thank you very much. O'Brien McKell. And next up is Dr. Lisa Redpath.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Minister O'Brien Mikael, and I live at 2074 Pendleton Drive. I'd like to share a poem I wrote with you today. Our home, Santa Cruz. I'm a parent. I love my 3 kids. What's the quality of our lives with these mining bids? I care about my neighbors and their welfare. What about them in this whole planning affair? I really love our Santa Cruz County. There's so much life here, so much bounty. Santa Cruz, holy cross. Our lives are sacred, but they can be lost. Mines leave lines in the earth, pollute and pervert its true worth. They cause erosion, sinkholes, contaminate the soil, pollute water and air so everything spoils. Do you want to breathe manganese that causes a Parkinson's-like disease? They argue that the mines bring money, but to who? Funny, 'cause I don't think it's for me or for you. Our borderlands are so diverse. We should protect them, not make them worse. Over 98 species call this their home. They should be free and able to roam, not at risk to a toxic environment and corporate interests with a sense of entitlement. Our region is so precious from plant to bird. To destroy nature's abundance is just absurd. From the rare Gila top minnow in the Santa Cruz River, to the trees with cardinals and the belted kingfisher, to the mesquite bosquet and the velvet ash, how does that equate to making hard cash? Any development will affect our flora and fauna. Maybe habitats destroyed and species are gone. I ask you assess and be sure of every step that you each take as our elected reps. With those choices you make, there's a whole lot at stake. For when resources are gone, we can't get them back, and you'll be responsible for taking us off track. Listen to the people, hear us talk. We're the ones who have to walk this walk and raise our families in potential disorder. Is that what you want to bring to this border? United as a community, we can make a change, overcome our differences and exchange ideas and creativity to find a solution, bring growth and be part of a green revolution, ensure quality of life for all of us here in Santa Cruz County. That is my prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Redpath, and then Cindria Lilly is next.
That was stunningly beautiful and compelling. Thank you. Dr. Lisa Redpath, Camino Cumbre, Rio Rico. Good morning. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my concerns about the impact of the potential presence of South 32 operations. I delivered some of these comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission last week and will repeat them today in the hopes that we can all be good students of history and learn from past mistakes. I speak to the comments from Mr. Reisner of South 32, who expressed the company's interest in establishing the, I believe he called it the IROC, and or a battery-grade manganese production facility in Rio Rico or Nogales. We all know the dangers associated with mining operations, particularly those of toxic manganese, zinc, and other ores. Let us not allow human arrogance to suggest that we are safe from these dangers. Any student of history knows that time and again, things that we thought were safe or not. Take, for example, the Titanic, which was hailed as unsinkable, yet it sank on its maiden voyage. Mr. Pat Reisner of South 32 described the shipping containers for the toxic ores as, quote, essentially indestructible. Is there a similar human overconfidence here? We know from history that nothing is indestructible. Mr. Reisner also attempted to assuage our fears by stating that there is, quote, an opportunity from the start to do things differently, end of quote. Isn't that what the White Star Line promoted when it built the Titanic? Do we really want to be part of the maiden voyage of these mining techniques and management? And continuing with the eerie similarities, wasn't the Titanic traveling at nearly top speed when it struck the iceberg, even though there had been multiple warnings in advance that icebergs were numerous in that area? Aren't we rushing in the same way? Please, gentlemen of the board, we ask you to heed our warnings about icebergs and hazards. Slow things down. In lieu of partnering with South 31, I invite you to work with local residents who are willing to explore other meaningful economic and educational initiatives, ones that don't require rezoning or, most importantly, the financial support of South 32. We are here to talk with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And after Ms. Lily, Joy Herman, or Edmund.
Hi, my name is Centria Catherine Lilly. I'm living at 2074 Pendleton Drive. I don't think I can follow that act. Everyone here who has spoken so far has perfectly articulated the dangers that were faced in entertaining this mining in Santa Cruz County. I don't need to repeat because it's well spoken, well said. I don't agree that we should accept funding from the mining company for our schools. I understand the need, I understand the economics, but I don't think that it is something that Santa Cruz County should entertain at this time, nor support. There's a lot of ways to educate children these days. We have the internet, and clearly the ones who have spoken so far have shown they can stand for themselves and for their cause. So reconsider accepting that funding and get creative, because there is such a thing as circular economics. There are ways to turn what would seem to be waste into assets. It's happening worldwide, and I think that there's a way to brainstorm this and find other ways to develop the economic base of Santa Cruz County. So I encourage the board to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lilly. Joy? Good morning. And then Ruth is next.
My name is Joy Herman. I live at 1114 Vista de los Alamos in Rio Rico. South 32 has been sold to us as a major player in the growth of Rio Rico and Santa Cruz County. Jobs, money rolling in, and so lots of new development. I downloaded their workforce development plan, which was dated in April 23. At the peak of their operations, they're looking at 685 employees. Out of those, 312 of them will be working in the mining operations. 80% of those, of course, are coming from supposedly Santa Cruz County and their workers, but that only leaves less than 200 people moving to the area. Now, all of the development that they're talking about in Santa Cruz County, are we doing this for 200 more people? Are we putting the lives of our community, our community in jeopardy for 685 jobs? That's nothing. That's nothing. I was shocked when I read these numbers. These jobs also that are supposed to be bringing in all this money, They start at about $36,000 a year and work up to $75,000 a year. That's not what I call a big monetary base for the county. But I need you to keep these, I would like you to keep this into consideration also. South 32 talks a big game, but they're only offering 685 jobs, peak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herman. And then after Ms. Ruth, Delaria.
Good morning. My name is Salinas Ruth, and I live at 2074 Pendleton Drive in Rio Rico. I'm an attorney with Global Family Legal Services, having served Arizona for 30 years, half of them in Santa Cruz County. Recently, I have assisted immigrant families locally, statewide, nationally, and from 40 different countries. My service has been in ministry and upholding people's human rights. This is what we're doing today, upholding our human rights. The right to clean air, clean water, clean thriving soil, and the health and safety of all of our families and our neighbors. We want to help our families thrive. Since June 20th, less than 6 weeks ago, we were awakened to the fact that our elected and appointed officials who should be upholding our human rights were not. Our trust in you has been shaken. Having just survived a pandemic and lost friends and family, we find you now have regressed into fear rather than engendering faith in us to help support and grow our community. Years ago, our county opened the door to outside Australian interests, those who've lost their way and have chosen to extract minerals from our lands, making them and the water and air toxic to human life. This is not God's plan for now or how we are to progress as a society. We can stop opening doors to those whose primary interest is mining. We've not begun to tap the resources above our ground. Our choices as a local and national economy must change. It's easier to recognize this now as we are living in the sweltering heat of climate change. We've become lazy, thinking it's better to rely on robotics or artificial intelligence to do our work. When and where it is too dangerous to work, we must stop and rethink what we're doing. So South 32 Mining is here in our county, in our neighborhoods, spending their money, blood money, made off the backs of many people working in or living near mines around the world. Has our county already taken money from South 32 or Andy Jackson? Are we now going to let them give money to our schools to bring their cute idea of robotics to limit the minds of our children? Will we show our children the videos of all the suffering this one mining company has brought others around the world? Our county holds a special, unique designation as a national heritage area. Let's promote it and dream big. Bring in fresh ideas to our children, expand their minds, care for each other, not become a company town. We all stand ready to do it differently. We can, we should, and we must. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ruth. And then after is going to be Beth Pearl.
Good morning. My name is Amadon Delerba, 38 Santa Gertrudis Lane. Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for listening. Thank you for coming out today, neighbors, friends. I was going to prepare a statement, and I decided to speak from the heart. May or may not be a good thing, but I would like to urge you, gentlemen, and if I may make the presumption that you are likely fathers and likely grandfathers, to think about your children and your children's children and the future of this beautiful valley that I have decided to call home. I'm a father, too, of 5. Last night I took my 3 youngest for a walk on the beautiful Dianza Trail, and I noticed a relatively new sign there that depicted the wildlife of the trail and talked about the diversity and the birding and the bioregion and of course the Santa Cruz River. I was very excited to see the sign. I was then equally very disappointed to see the South 32 logo on it, sponsored by South 32. Very disturbing. We do not need to accept the what I would call blood money from this mining company to celebrate the diversity and the beauty of our area. That sign is wonderful, but it shouldn't have been paid for by the mine. And the fact that they're coming into our community and trying to buy us out is an insult on our intelligence and our dignity and our honor as people. We don't need them. And we need to hold that in our hearts. My mother grew up in a mining community in Globe, Arizona, as well as, of course, her sisters, my aunts. All three of them have lung conditions from being in that area, from the dust, from the tailings. To this day, in their 60s and 70s, have compromised lungs and lasting conditions from growing up in that environment. It'll be the same for the people of Patagonia. It'll be the same for the people who live here if there's a processing plant and other things that can happen to our water, to our nature, to our beauty. And so I urge you to think of the generations to come. You've heard all the facts. You've heard many people talk. I'm trying to appeal to your hearts, to your minds, to your souls, to realize that people make a choice to live in this area. It is not random. I'm involved in the real estate sector. I've spoken to many homeowners. They choose to buy homes in the Rio Rico Hills because of the environment they're in. They don't want to live in the suburbs. They could have spent their $250,000 in Sarahita and bought a home there, or in Green Valley, or in Sierra Vista. But no, they chose here. It's a conscious choice. People choose to live here to enjoy this environment, the beauty, the space. The lack of industry is a huge one. Bringing industry to this belt or on the I-19 corridor would greatly change that. I was just telling my friends from back east when I was in New York last week how much I enjoy sitting on my porch and looking out and not seeing one home, not seeing a building, not seeing streetlights. I see the mountains, I see the beautiful desert. This is why people choose to live in this area, and it's important for you to realize that and protect it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And after Beth, it's Ed Pearl.
Good morning, Beth Pearl, 438 Rio Rico Drive. I am absolutely opposed to having any sort of a manganese processing plant here anywhere in Santa Cruz County. We need to be aware of the danger South 32 poses to all of us, and especially the health and well-being of ourselves and our children. I would direct your attention to the overwhelming evidence of the danger of manganese contamination, not just to the environment, but to the very health and safety of the humans living and working in the general vicinity of any mining or processing plant of manganese. Both the NIH and the CDC have an overwhelming amount of evidence about the danger of manganese exposure, that manganese exposure poses to humans, especially children with their developing brains. It is linked to the following conditions: manganism, a Parkinson's-like disease, increased risk of Alzheimer's, irritability, aggressiveness, psychosis, and hallucinations, learning disabilities, birth defects, impotence in men, multiple respiratory diseases. Children especially are more sensitive to manganese toxicity than adults and will suffer from developmental disabilities, ADHD, asthma, learning disabilities, poor school performance, and documented higher rates of infant mortality. UC Irvine conducted a study which found that manganese exposure early in life can lead to aggressive and oppositional behavior in adolescence and young adulthood. It essentially changes the biochemistry of the brain in babies and young children. This leads to a rise in violent crime. FBI data shows that counties with the highest levels of lead and manganese pollution typically have crime rates 3 times the national average. We do not want that in Santa Cruz County. The processing of manganese anywhere in our county puts all of us at risk, but especially our children and babies. And I'm happy to provide you with the studies, any of the documentation you may need to prove that. We must work together. I request that the supervisors establish a committee of resident volunteers. Many of us would be willing to act as consultants, provide feedback, providing ways to revitalize our area without sacrificing our environment and the health and well-being of this beautiful area that all of us call home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ed Pearl?
Good morning. My name is Ed Pearl. I live on Rio Rico Drive. A lot of stuff I was planning to talk about has already been covered, but there's a few things I do still want to touch on. Mostly I want to speak about South 32 and their reputation around the world. They are not good neighbors as they might like to portray themselves. They do come into communities and what I would call try and bribe communities with gifts of, I heard in Patagonia they were giving away bicycles to poor kids, things like that. I think that's very shady behavior. Anyway, South 32, since its inception in 2015, along with its former parent company and affiliates, had a troubling track record around the world. Far from being good neighbors, they have consistently broken contracts, broken licenses, broken rules, broken communities, broken lives, and broken promises. Here's a few examples. In 2019 in South Africa, South 32 committed gross violations of their wastewater use permits. That's from S&P Global Intelligence Report. March 2018, Cerro Matoso mine in Colombia. South 32 must pay damages for waste emissions that damage the health of nearby communities. February of that same year, February 2020, South 32 fails to pay royalties of $181.5 million to Colombia. Later that same year, October 2022, journalist Rafael Moreno was murdered after exposing corruption and crime linked to illegal extraction at Cerro Matoso and South 32. Gee, I wonder who had him murdered. It's a journalist. 2016 in New South Wales, South 32 chastised for poor safety records. The COO admitted they needed to do better on safety. 2015, South Africa, 4 workers killed in a separate incident at South 32 mines throughout South Africa. In 2015 in Brazil, former parent company woefully neglect and collapse of tailing mines killed 19 and sent a river of toxic waste effects felt for 600 kilometers downstream, 60 million cubic meters of toxic waste. I'm almost out of time. Anyway, I strongly feel that the community should not accept any funding for the schools from South 32 because I'm sure it comes with strings attached. And just keep this in mind, no mining company ever leaves a community better off in the long run. Never. Look around the world. They never leave things better off in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill Eckhart. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Keel.
And after Bill, it's going to be Robin Lucky. Morning, Bill.
Good morning. My name's Bill Eckhart. I live at 1875 Circulo, Guatemala in Rio Rico. I'm going to address this from a different approach. We have been trying to deal with the county here for some time. We've even made statements pertaining to the abuse and excessive use of executive session. One newspaper article said that we were lying. We were not lying. We have copies of the rules. Too many things have gone on behind closed doors. We need to have the people out front. These people work for us, the taxpayers. We do not work for them. They do not work for South 32 or any of these other entities. They work for us. If you owned a business and your employees were working against the company values, hiding things from you as the owner of the business, would you keep that employee? I would not. Why do we keep electing these people that do not represent us? If they don't start doing the right thing...
Excuse me, sir. Would you face the board? You're not talking to the public, you're talking to
I'll talk to you then.
Good, do it.
I am. We're tired of this behind our backs misrepresentation. We have tried to bring letters into the county complaining. We were told by Mr. Rojas on numerous occasions not to bring any more letters. They weren't even going to look at them. They were going to throw those they had away. This is how we've been treated. We have been stonewalled, and we're tired of it. So we're giving you the opportunity to start doing the right thing. Stop looking at the wallets. We can bring better businesses in here. You have a lot of smart people in this county that have already spoken. Listen to them. Do the right thing. And I am talking to you, sir.
Good, thank you, sir.
That's it.
Ms. Lucky, and after Ms. Lucky, it's Susan Fabian, or Fabian, I'm sorry, Susan. I keep doing that to you.
Good morning. My name is Robin Lucky. I live at 1377 Camino Faja in Rio Rico. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you all this morning. I am the president of the newly formed Calabasas Alliance, La Alianza Calabasas. Today, I speak as the formal representative of the Calabasas Alliance. The mission of the Calabasas Alliance is to preserve and protect the natural environment of biodiverse flora and fauna, water resources, air quality, and the health and safety of the residents of the Upper Santa Cruz Valley. Through active advocacy in cooperation with like-minded groups and legal counsel, the Alliance seeks to dissuade, hopefully prevent, any major industrial development, especially mining ore processing or transport along the I-19 corridor in Santa Cruz County. We are opposed to the county approving any potential rezoning without very clear public discourse. Quoting Frank Dillon's letter to Mr. Jackson dated June 29th, 2023, in quotes, there are concerns regarding the lack of specificity in how the proposed land uses will fit into the existing context and the absence of a clear nexus to a specific development. The absence of specific details has made it difficult for stakeholders to assess the potential impacts and benefits of the proposed changes. This absence of clear nexus does not make it difficult for stakeholders to assess massive rezoning. It makes it impossible. The Calabasas Alliance respectfully requests that the board take this observation under serious consideration. The Calabasas Alliance is categorically opposed to any transport or processing of ore by South 32 along the I-19 corridor, especially manganese ore. The severe risk of doing so to the environment, human health, and the integrity of the I-19 corridor has already been amply brought to your attention by many concerned citizens and advocacy groups within the county and beyond. I will not repeat those overwhelming concerns, here trusting you have heard them and have given them your full consideration. South 32 has already donated money to the town of Patagonia and is now offering to donate $111,000 to the county for educational programs. We urge you to please reconsider this. I would like to present to you around 140 signatures opposing rezoning.
Opposing rezoning?
Yes.
Okay,
They came from Rio Rico Pharmacy and Joe Coyle. Thank you.
thank you. So Susan, and then after Susan, Pam Pesqueda.
My name is Susan Fobian, and I live at 20 Kent Avenue in Rio Rico. Gentlemen, last week I received my renewal notice for my homeowner's insurance. The increase was 48%. I called. They explained that 20% of that increase was due to Arizona's deficit water status. Gentlemen, I urge you to think in terms of the reality of where we live. I would request that you think in terms of water conservation so that we avoid water restrictions. No matter how much money you think the mine and the related components might bring in, no amount of money can buy us more water. As for jobs, there is never a shortage of job postings in this county between the school districts and Mariposa Community Health Center and the county. We have jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pesqueda? And after Ms. Pesqueda, Joanne Van Water.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and everyone in attendance.
My name is Pamela Pesqueira, and I live at 1208 Avenida Gandara in Rio Rico. I feel that we the people have made ourselves crystal clear in that we are against the rezoning of Andy Jackson's land, even though I understand it's been taken off the table. I still don't trust him. We are definitely not interested in South 32 insinuating themselves into our community. It is very clear that we do not want a processing plant, refinery, or even an office for remote control of the Hermosa mine of Patagonia built anywhere in Rio Rico. They have said they have other places they can explore. Well, let them go and explore those and leave us alone. No one denies that we need more commerce in our community, and we are all, as Lisa Redgrave said, willing to sit down with our supervisors and discuss those options. But we want the right kind of commerce that won't affect our ecosystems, pollute our air or our water. I find it shameful and of questionable influence that South 32 is suddenly going to donate $111,000 to our schools. Some have called it blood money. You call it what it is. It just reassures me why I don't trust South 32 in our community. I don't like them, and I don't like what they represent, and I don't want them in my backyard in Rio Rico. And speaking of my backyard, Mr. Supervisor, you are my supervisor, nothing's been done at 407 Rio Rico Drive. Nothing. It's as bad as it was 3 weeks ago, and I have pictures to prove it. I'm hoping that you and Frank Dillon, when this is all over with, will get on that and get that yard cleaned up, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pesqueira. Joanne Van Walter, and after that is Kathleen Fitzpatrick.
I'm Joanne Van Natter. I live at 123 Avenida Eurussia in Tubac, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm just saying the rezoning that is being requested by a man who owns a lot of property in Rio Rico, his purpose is to just make a lot of money by bringing a huge corporation in which will pollute our entire area. Mining is one of the dirtiest processes that exists on Earth. The tailing from the mine process will create hazardous dust that blows in the wind, or if it is contained in water, it is ugly and smelly. We don't have enough water here to contain the tailings in water. There will be large mini trucks moving residue around 24 hours a day. I spent 7 years living in a mining community at Climax, Colorado. They mined molybdenum, and it was in the high mountains of Colorado, really on the Continental Divide. It was a company town, which is not the case here. They were responsible for their employees' health, which is not the case here. The tailings, or the residue from the mining process, was stored 5 miles away in water down the mountain, far from any populated area. That is not the case here. If the mine goes through, South 32 could and should build their own company town, as Climax did, close to the mine. Their operation would be huge and would certainly warrant such an investment. When the wind blows in Green Valley, where I lived before I moved to Tubac, the smell permeates the entire town. The tailings is farther in Green Valley than the proposed tailings would be here. They put sulfur on top to hold the dust down, plant trees, and still it blows. They have been fined numerous times for not mitigating their tailings properly. Please do not rezone for the purpose of South 32. We do not need or want them to get a foothold in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in today. And I'm sorry I pronounced your name wrong. And to everybody else who I'm going to pronounce their name wrong, I apologize.
Yeah, sorry.
But you guys know who it is, so I appreciate that
I
too.
apologize for my sloppy handwriting. My name is Kayleen Fitzpatrick.
And I already killed your name. So. Oh man. The next person is going to be Demeth Daniel Steinhardt.
So my name is Kayleen Fitzpatrick. I live at 38 Santa Gertrudis, and I'm speaking out against the mine and the processing plants. And I don't have all the details of the plans on the table, but I know without a doubt that the bottom line here is profit for a global company worth billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, no matter what the face is on the marketing this year. Companies like South 32 or BHP don't get to where they are at the top of the mining industry by serving communities, creating jobs, or sustainably harvesting minerals. They get it by coercing a populace and governments, keeping their costs low by cutting corners and withholding the truth, and taking what they want at the cost of the surrounding communities and landscape. There is no interest from this foreign company in preserving the wildlife sanctuary or beautiful rural lifestyle of Santa Cruz County that has to offer. All they see is potential profits that they will take as fast as they can and get out before the long-term effects of this project ruin the surrounding community. Residents are just a hurdle to get over, and that is done by investing in schools, medical facilities, new housing plans, and signs along the historic walkways on the Santa Cruz River. To create a public facade that they are investing in our livelihood, but the wolf is in sheep's clothing. I feel that if we allow this project to take hold, we put all of our lives, the wildlife, and our landscape in critical risk. Catastrophic failure is a real threat that has happened at these sites around the world, and we are just downstream and downwind of these mines and processing facilities. But for South 32, it is still more profitable to take what they want and just pay the fines and damages. They will fill their pockets as fast as they can and leave this beautiful river valley without a second glance. There is no long-term investment here. Messing with groundwater and processing extremely toxic minerals and metals in our watershed and near our homes is not something I will stand by and watch. I say the social and ecological risk is too much to allow this, and we need to brainstorm more ingenious ways to create jobs and opportunity, improve our quality of life, and aim towards a thriving future. And we need politicians who will stand up for us, or better yet, to lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we have Evan Fitzpatrick.
Damaine Steinhardt, 2074 Pendleton Drive, Rio Rico. Well, I'd say 99.9% of the people of Rio Rico have spoken, and the will of the people has been heard. I've been at many meetings over the past few months, and they have eloquently spoken against Andrew Jackson and the mines. So that is Rio Rico, the will of the people. But unfortunately, we need to keep speaking, because Andrew Jackson will be back, and so are the mines, threatening. Andrew Jackson is no Andrew Jackson. He's more like Benedict Arnold.
Excuse me?
He's turned his back on the people of Rio Rico and the natural world. For many years, he did a beautiful job, I told him, an honorable job of taking care of the land, being a good steward. I let him know he did we love to see those beautiful fields and the care he put into them. But his actions are now dishonorable, and he can't be trusted. So we need to be ever vigilant and keep speaking out. Here's a little bit I compiled from the internet about the impacts of a mine on communities. As mining affected communities, we have always raised our concerns about the corruptive, divisive, and patronizing nature of mining development in our communities. For many years, communities have been resisting the violent land grab by mining communities who are aided and abetted by the political elite in the state. We have always been lied to with the promise of jobs and economic development of our communities, but we continue to pay with our lives and have only seen the development of increased and persistent unemployment and increasing poverty levels. This historic and ongoing exploitation of our land and our people have led to increasing dependency on grants and handouts and has degraded our people, our culture, and our heritage. And South 32, by the way, their $100,000 offer, that is the cheapest thing I've ever heard in my life. $9 billion in revenues, and they want to offer some loose change? That is cheap. This state and corporate neglect has given rise to conditions of extreme exploitation and has allowed the conditions for the rise of all forms of violence and crime in our communities, including domestic abuse against women. We continue to suffer the impact of abandoned and unrehabilitated mines when mining companies disappear or declare bankruptcy in order to avoid paying taxes. So what do we want for Rich River, Rio Rico, Rich River? We want richness for our families, not to be the scourge of Santa Cruz County and the world, but richness
Your time is
for our
up.
families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last speaker before we take our break is going to be Evan Fitzpatrick.
Good morning. My name is Evan Fitzpatrick. I also live on Pendleton Drive. I moved to this county with my family when I was 17, which was 16 years ago. I have loved living here because of the beautiful scenery and wildlife that I get to see every day. Though the proposition for rezoning has been retracted, I am undoubtedly certain that those interests will continue to find a way to present themselves in various guises. I am firmly against allowing any mining or processing facilities in our beautiful county. The Sky Islands are a precious region, home to a vast array of wildlife and a migratory corridor for many, many more. Allowing such industrial facilities in this area will disrupt the environment, the wildlife, our air quality, our water quality, and the quality of life of its inhabitants. I would also venture that adding such facilities could create light pollution for our observatory on Mount Hopkins. Instead of mining or processing facilities, why don't we propose wildlife or bird sanctuaries? Build an organic waste composting operation to build the soil for the surrounding farmland using the fruits and vegetables that go to waste in the many warehouses in Nogales, and repurpose those resources. Maybe even water harvesting and conservation, training, and research. I do not agree with grants from the mining corporations to our schools, whose strings that are attached will surely form the noose around their necks in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take a break. At 10:30, we're going to move into our truth and taxation hearing. As soon as the truth and taxation hearing is over.
It depends how much.
There's a
people
public
comment.
there's a public hearing part of that also that people can comment on, so
If they
it's
don't
hard to
talk a
tell.
lot, it could be 5 minutes. If they talk a lot, it could be half an hour.
Your mic is on.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that we recess our regular meeting and convene into the special meeting for the purpose of truth and taxation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We are now in the truth and taxation hearing. Item 1, we're doing a public hearing for the truth and taxation. Mauricio?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In compliance with ARS
Can we
42-
close the back room doors, please?
17107 and 48-254, we are complying with the public hearing, Truth and Taxation for Santa Cruz County for fiscal year 23-24.
Thank you. Mauricio, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have a presentation for the truth and taxation portion of the meeting, as well as for the budget portion. I wanted to go over some of the items that were mandated, that we were faced with for the upcoming fiscal year. We have some increases that are mandated by the state of Arizona and other in organizations that are beyond our control. Mainly the Arizona retirement plans have an increase of $60,000. Our health insurance took the largest increase we've seen in years for $368,000, of which we have apportioned 10% of those costs attributing to the employee that we have recommended for the employee to take on as well. Liability insurance increase of $125,500. Our annual library contribution increased $39,000 this year, and then our access contribution increased $7,500. So all in all, we have a total of mandated increases of $600,000.
We have moving graphics on our points.
We do, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to speak to you a little bit about, the truth and taxation and compliance with ARS 42-17107. Our primary tax, the board initiated, cognizant of a looming recession, the board directed staff to decrease the property tax 2.5 cents. So that's reducing our primary tax from $4.515 to 4.0265. So the overall entire county's assessed value did increase, however, due to an increase in overall assessed values, and then the primary and secondary taxes are affected. So that would be about a $15.52 annual increase on a home valued at $100,000, or about $1.29 per month. However, if your assessed values did not change, your taxes will remain the same. Individual experiences may differ based on unique property tax variances. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, does the board have any questions regarding the primary tax?
Supervisor Malera, do you have a question?
No, sir.
Supervisor Reese?
No, thank you.
Okay, Mauricio, please continue.
Okay. The secondary tax decrease and overall assessed values, since the board directed staff to decrease the primary tax, this also triggers a secondary tax reduction of 0.5 cent. So due to the increase in overall value, assessed values, and a reduction in the secondary tax rate from 0.8103 cents to 0.053 cents, that would be an annual increase of about $3.59 on an average tax bill, or about 30 cents per month. However, if your tax bill your assessed values didn't change, then that value of the annual increase did not change at all. So the overall, the annual effect on primary and secondary tax for both taxes would be at $19.11 annually, or about $1.59 per month on a home valued at $100,000. I'll entertain any questions the board may have at this time.
Supervisor Malera?
I'm fine, thank you.
Supervisor Reese? Okay, Mauricio?
That concludes my presentation portion of the Truth in Taxation meeting. Unless the board has any other questions for me regarding that.
No further questions for me. Thank you, Mauricio.
Okay, thank you, Mauricio. No questions. We'll move on to the presentation of the Santa Cruz County budget for fiscal year 2023-24. Item 2.
Correct. So good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for their continued support and all elected officials and department heads for keeping the expenditures within their respective budget. I also want to thank County Manager Mr. Jesus Valdez for his assistance and support during the budget process. The county continues to be proactive with federal and state grants. The county was allocated $3.4 million from the Treasury Department for the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund, as well as additional COVID-related funds, which allows us to offset many general fund expenditures. Approximately $20 million in grant funding for capital projects, including the Ephraim Canyon Project, the Ruby Road Bridge Project, historic 1904 courthouse renovation projects, and multiple airport improvement projects that will begin in fiscal year 24. I will go over each schedule, and then I'll stop to take any questions or comments from the board regarding the fiscal year 24 budget. So before you see there, it's Schedule A. Those are statutorily required schedules that we have to provide in order to fulfill our budget requirements. Schedule A provides a summary schedule of estimated revenues and expenditures for the fiscal year. For the general fund, we have budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 24 at $42,111,916, as opposed to last year, our budgeted expenditures were $40,003,500. For special revenue funds, budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 24 are $70,396,867. These are mostly federal and state grants and our projections of anticipated funding for the coming year. Our debt service funds budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 24 are $902,513. For fiscal year 23, they were $903,427. It's a slight decrease due to change in administrative fees. Our capital project funds, our budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 24 are $18,563,512. These are federal and state grants. The increase is attributed to the Ephraim Canyon Flood Control Project and multiple airport improvement projects as well. Our enterprise funds, which are the landfill fund, our budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 24 are $9,115,172. So total for all funds for Schedule A for fiscal year 24, $141,089,980.
Supervisor Malera, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Supervisor Reese? Okay, Mauricio, keep going. Thank you.
Schedule B, the summary of tax and levy tax information. Overall, local state revenues have increased on an average of about 16% compared to last year. State share sales tax revenue have increased on an average of about 17% compared to last year. However, many economists and financial analysts predict a mild recession likely in 2024. In addition, everyday costs to provide county services have increased as well. Overall, we were able to hold down the line on controllable expenses. However, we are facing increases, as I expressed in the Truth in Taxation hearing, of about $600,000. Per the Arizona Department of Revenue, and as discussed in the Truth in Taxation, the maximum allowable levy limit is $19,853,070, or 4.8068. That's the maximum allowable tax rate that we're allowed to charge. Cognizant of an upcoming recession, the board directed staff to reduce the primary tax rate by 2.5 cents, reducing the primary tax rate to 4.0265. The proposed property tax levy amount is $16,630,271, which is well below the allowable maximum. Any questions on the Schedule B on the first section?
No, sir.
Okay, Mauricio, please continue.
That's just indicating the direction that you provided at the tentative budget meeting 2 weeks ago to reduce the primary tax rate 2.5 cents, and that triggers the secondary at 20%, and that's half cents.
Okay, please continue.
Schedule C. Schedule C provides the summary of fund type of revenues other than property taxes. So for the general fund, our estimated revenues for the general fund are at 15,163,246. Last year's estimated revenues were at 14,200,915. Keep in mind that we still have accrual spending till the end of August, so our actual revenues will increase from the amount of 18,200,908. Going on to the second part of Schedule C, the special revenues, total estimated revenues for fiscal year 24 are at 36,805,889. And then the total for all funds are going to be 71,886,933. If you have any specific questions on specific funds, I'll be more than happy to go over those.
Supervisor Malera, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Supervisor Reese?
Mauricio did a good job pointing some of these things, and it's an easy-to-read chart, so.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the meetings you've had with us prior to this meeting, so please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Schedule D provides a summary of interfund transfers. Those are the mandated transfers that we have for the jail district, for the environmental department, and for animal control, and also provides the cash matches for the federal and state grants as well.
Okay. Let's move on.
Schedule E, that's a summary by department of expenditures with each fund type. The general fund, we have, like we reviewed in Schedule A, 42,111,916. And then the rest of Schedule E provides a breakdown also by each department.
And then this is the budgeted amount, but it's not the actual expenditures from last year, correct?
Correct, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. That is very correct. We have to budget to cash, so our budget it's going to be showing that larger amount, but our actual expenditures right now are 27,357,000.
But when you have these other numbers, it allows these departments to seek out grant funding for different things and special projects, correct?
Correct. That gives us that opportunity. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions, Supervisor Reed?
No.
Malera?
No, sir.
Okay. Alicia?
Okay. Schedule G, that provides the number of full-time equivalent and compensation related to each fund. So for the general fund, the full-time equivalent, or FTEs, is at 228, and the total estimated compensation for fiscal year 23 is at 19,905,647. The rest of Schedule G provides a breakdown of all the other departments as far as full-time equivalent and compensation as well. It is well documented that retention and recruitment for personnel is a challenge for any organization. We are not immune as we struggle to keep good talent as well as to recruit new workers. We consulted with public sector personnel consultants for a full classification and compensation study. They interviewed every single employee and compared each position to comparable agencies. We are currently analyzing the results from that study and will make a recommendations when we conclude a review. We analyzed many trends and statistics. We considered the rise of inflation. We also looked at the current average consumer price index that is currently at about 4%. The 2023 Social Security cost of living adjustment was at 8.7 for year 2023. And in our continuing effort to retain valuable employees as well as recruit professional talent, this year budget, staff is recommending, as we indicated in the tentative budget, a 6% cost of living adjustment for all current employees.
Okay. Supervisor Malera? Any questions? Do you have any questions, Supervisor Malera?
No questions, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mauricio.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the information provided, the slide that you see is provided by the Department of Revenue. That shows the maximum allowable limit, that we're not remotely close to that. We're about 3 million shy of even the allowable levy limit. So staff is recommending funding the budget as presented, as well as the included reclassifications and positions changes. And I would be happy to take any questions or comments from the board at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just want to personally thank Mauricio for his detail and due diligence. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Malera. Supervisor Reese, any comments?
Just, I think even when you talk about recession, I was listening to the news this morning, and they're kind of preparing now more for a soft landing than really a really hard recession. They're still urging the feds to continue with that 2% raise for borrowing money. I know that has an effect on everybody from credit cards to mortgages to everything else, but you know, given some of the things that we're doing here today is to try to offset at least a little bit minimal the costs to taxes. Now, having said that, I know that we have other taxing entities that we approve their tax rates, but we have no
control
way to change what those other school boards and fire districts put into their tax rate for their operations. So we did our part as far as the county. So, and I know that for every dollar our good treasurer who's sitting there in the back collects, we probably get a quarter, and everything else goes out to the other entities. So those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to thank staff for putting this together. I know you started this process much earlier. I think that gave you more time to have these conversations, the hard conversations with the departments. I also appreciate the departments, you know, coming in under their revenue expectations, their expenditure expectations from last year. This is a pretty consistent protocol in Santa Cruz County that we do come in under what our proposed budget is. We always do leave money in available for grants. It is really stressful when you have a grant opportunity and you're perfect and you're going to get the money, but you can't accept the money because you don't have it in your budget. And that I've seen that happen to other communities, and I appreciate that you guys do planning for that. So Mauricio, thank you very much. And I also like to thank the people who stayed in the room to listen to this process, because this is kind of the fun stuff that we get to do. Okay, Mauricio thinks it's fun, but this is the stuff that we do. And so if you have any questions, feel free to call us, and then I'll publish Mauricio's number on the front page of the website, the County website, that you can just call him too. But Mauricio, thank you very much for doing a good job on putting this together for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board for the support, and thank you for my staff as well, and I want to thank County Manager Mr. Valdez also for the support. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we adjourn our public hearing and convene into the special meeting.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So we're in the special meeting. Item 1, discussion possible action, approval of resolution number 2023-09, adopting the Santa Cruz County budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Mr. Chairman, I will go ahead and move that we approve resolution 2023-9 and adopt the Santa Cruz County budget for fiscal year 23-24 as presented by staff.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries unanimously. Item 2, discussion possible action, adoption of fiscal year 2023-2024 tax rates for jurisdictions within Santa Cruz County.
Mr. Chairman, I will move the adoption of fiscal year 2023-2024 tax rates for jurisdictions within Santa Cruz County as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And under discussion, these are the rates that we got from our school districts, our fire districts, and all the other taxing entities that are in their communities. And those boards present those numbers to us. We can't touch them, we just adopt them so that they're in our budget. We collect the money, and then our good treasurer puts those out. Thankfully, she prints on your tax notices exactly what rate and how much money is going to each of those entities from your bill. And then when the money comes in, she distributes it. So Treasurer Guffard, thank you very much for taking care of that responsibility. I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Supervisor Malera?
I said aye. I'm sorry.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I will move we adjourn our special public hearing, a special meeting, and reconvene regular session.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're back into our regular session. We're still a call to the public. Can you open the doors and let's let everybody come back in? And again, thank you very much for staying and listening to that.
Even the newspaper didn't stay here.
Nope. Angela, you didn't stay. You didn't stay for our hearing.
Okay, test.
These are the Zoom requests so far. I'll
Okay.
leave these here, and then I'll bring you another one if not,
You'll bring me another one.
if we have more.
Oh, we got a ways to go here. Liz, you can sit at this table if you'd like.
I saw Anita too. Maybe she left.
Well, she was helping in the back. Okay, the first speaker in this half of the meeting is going to be Jordan Doris, and then following Jordan is going to be Sue Laverty.
Jordan Doris, 38 Santa Gertrudis Lane. I would like to start. I'm not originally from Santa Cruz.
Drew,
Oh, sorry.
you just hold on a second
Yep.
because we're going to wait for. Is there anybody else who wants to come into the boardroom? You can get settled and we give Mr. Doris his.
Exactly. Looks like
Okay, everybody's in? Okay. Thank you for waiting.
Yes. I am not originally from Santa Cruz County or Arizona. I'm from Oregon, actually. I moved here about a year and a half ago with my brother. And so I never really have I don't have a lot of experience, at least personally, with like mining or a lot of like super industrialized life. Where I grew up, it was mostly like a forest, like a rainforest. And so it was kind of a surprise to me when my teacher told me recently, and some of my classmates, about this, to research it. And the more research I did, the more I kind of started to like it less and less. I'm a high school student. I'm going into 10th grade very soon. I heard about the $100,000 some donation to Rio Rico High School, which I think is kind of obviously a play I don't personally, I go to a private school, but as a high schooler, I would not want that money for my school, and I wouldn't want it for any school personally, especially coming from a company who I've seen do a lot of work. I know that South 32 has a lot of work in different areas, like South Africa is one I've seen personally. Manganese dust will kill people. I mean, it can commit Parkinson's disease, lung disease, among other things. And so I don't think it's a great idea personally, just my humble opinion. I went to Bisbee, which is a town built on a mine. And one of the biggest things I noticed was that the person who led the tour knew that hundreds of the people who worked in that mine died working in that mine from the chemicals and ores that created dust in that mine. So even if South 32 says this mine will give us jobs, just logically you would think that it's going to kill a lot of the people or damage permanently the people it gives jobs to. So why would you give people jobs if you're just going to damage them or even potentially kill them in the end anyway? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think the mine should be supported at all. Nobody here does. If you guys are supposed to listen to us, well, nobody here has said the mine is good. So I think it's been spoken for so far. And I wouldn't even think about accepting the $100,000 or whatever it actually is, because it's obviously, you can call it blood money, you can call it a ploy, you can call it whatever you want. It's not good. That's all.
Thank you very much. And Sue Laverty, and following Sue is Darlene Allen.
Hi, my name is Sue Laverty. I live at 228 Market Circle in Tubac. And I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Community Development Department and their staff, along with the Board of Supervisors, in realizing the importance of working together. We have an opportunity as a community to move forward more thoughtfully. As a small rural county, we will never be a big metropolis county, and that's a good thing. That's what I think anyway. We all choose to live in this small rural county of Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Allen, and following Miss Allen is Sky Leone.
My name is Darlene Allen. I've been here, I live at 33 Camino Chimeneas, and I've been here since 2016. I'm an older mother. I have a 14-year-old in Rio Rico High School, and we don't want the $100,000. I don't want a world or a county where we live to be poisoned for people were saying previously, we want jobs so our children can stay here. Yes, they want jobs, but they don't know the horror that South 32 has left all over the world. They don't want their children to die. They just don't know. And so we're asking you to listen to all these smart people, educated people. We have a resource right here to exploit. We need to use these people to find jobs that will help all of us and leave this place better and more beautiful than it is now. And God knows that's a tall order to fill. But I'm telling you, South 32 is a predator. I said this previously. They are a predator, and they have preyed on communities in countries across this world, and they have left dying and sick people and disaster. You think their money is good now, but when they leave and you have to find the money to clean up, or you have to choose to leave it the disaster that it is, you will be sorry. We need to get our community together and build a board that can help y'all find us opportunities that will help us. I've heard so many people here talk about all these different things that we could do. We need to do those things. And you have us. I love this place. And it is important to me that it stays safe and beautiful. I say this every time, and there's so many, I don't even want to go into the medical stuff. It's there, you can see it, and these people have pointed it out. Please be our advocates. Please work for us. We need you. We want you to help us. We want you to help us help the poorer people of the county that need those jobs. I want them to be happy and safe. I don't want them to be thrown under a bus because they're poor and they have to take what they can get. That's not life. That's not what we want. We want people to thrive and grow, not be poisoned for a temporary job. Please help us take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, and we will help you if you ask us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Sky Leone, and following Sky is Wendy Eastless.
Sky Leon, 13 TR Lane, Tubac. Good morning, Supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Today is August 1st, but it appears that Christmas is coming early for the board. You are being given a great gift from South 32. Today, whether you know it or not, is a watershed day for you as a board. If you accept this money at this time from South 32 for educational purposes, you're sending a message to the community that you're on the side of the mine. If you reject it and say, well, we'll wait till they're here and operating and part of the county, that's a more reasonable time to accept it. Now let me explain a little bit more. I'm an educator. I have a degree in environmental planning, graduate degree in natural science, graduate degree in education, and a teaching credential. I've taught in one of the poorest schools in California, high school. I've also taught for the University of California many years for their environmental studies department and the education department. I understand the need for funding and the difficulties of it, especially in the school that I taught at Watsonville, California. It was more than 50% of my students lived in poverty. To leave $100,000 on the table and walk away from it would be very difficult. But mining companies have a strategy of dividing communities, an active strategy, and bringing money here, giving money a little bit for here, for a sign down by the river, $100,000 for educational programs. It divides the community. You guys are in a pickle right now because so many of us in the community don't trust you. We feel trust has been broken. Today you can heal that and create trust once again and say, no, we should slow down with supporting the mining going forward. We won't accept this money. And that would send a big message to all your constituents that this is not the proper time to accept money from a mining company that we're not sure is going to be the right thing for our community. Many of us are certain it's not the right thing, but you as a board have to make that decision along the way. So I grew up in a town where a power company came in and built a huge power plant. And they gave us money for a state-of-the-art high school and many other things. But they also gave us oil spills. I grew up in eastern Long Island, of our beautiful beaches. They polluted the air. Sulfuric acid would rain down at night. We'd wake up in the morning and the paint would be stripped from our cars, etc. There are big costs for working with South 32. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wendy Eastlas, and following Wendy is David Robinson.
Chairman Brecker and Board of Supervisors, good morning. My name is Wendy Eastlas. I'm a longtime Rio Rico resident. I do oppose a battery-grade manganese facility in Rio Rico or anywhere in Santa Cruz County. I am also opposed to the use of Article 31 at this time, and I recommend more community input in the future for development projects that come before you in the county. I respectfully request Mr. Dillon to please clarify what development agreements are as referenced in his statement released yesterday. South 32's June 2023 quarterly report states that they have begun pilot scale manganese. Pat Resner confirmed that South 32 needs 150 to 250 acres of undeveloped land to build a battery-grade manganese facility. South 32 has begun to infiltrate the corners of our community. School programs, bikes, soon they'll be offering health checks. And now to hear someone mention that their signs are at our treasured trail sites, and as a landscape photographer and avid outdoors person, it makes me sick to my stomach to think that I would see a South 32 sign when I go to the trailhead. I encourage our schools to explore best practices and similar programs without taking South 32 monies. This community did not receive full disclosure of this manganese facility by anyone, But we do know the county approached Mr. Jackson 1 to 2 years ago and held meetings with the schools, the county, and an unnamed party, likely South 32. This is actually on the record of the June 22nd, 2023 Planning and Zoning Committee. So who in the county approached Mr. Jackson, and why is no one answering this question? Where is the transparency when South 32 nor the Port Authority's presentations were not included with the July 18, 2023 Board of Supervisors Board Agenda Material Packet? I do note that Mr. Becker and Mr. Pat Risner sit on the Port Authority's board. Remember that you represent all of the community and not a select few. This county has immeasurable meaning, beauty, and depth to every person that resides here. Manganese is not sustainable here. It will destroy this land, and it will destroy those who share in its most diverse ecosystems. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eastlis. David Robinson, and following David is Jesus Jerez. David Robinson. Jesus Jerez. And following Jesus Jerez is Dwayne Icontu. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thankfully, I'm not going to be discussing mining or rezoning, but I do want to mention the topic of water. And I've recently become aware of a situation that's affecting several industries, businesses here in the county. And it has to do with water to finished construction, where the main has not yet been extended. And some of these extensions have been sitting. Nothing has been done about them for about 2 years or more. Oh, I'm sorry, I live in Rio Rico, 1880 Calle Provincia, and I've been here for just under 50 years. And I did come from a mining town. The way the homes are constructed is they apply for a building permit, and part of the process to obtain that building permit, you have to provide evidence that water will be available to the home when the home is finished, so that you can give a certificate of occupancy. The problem is the letter is issued by the water providing authority, and they don't have a line, a sufficient line, to that home in place. So they put it on their schedule, but the schedules take several years to finally get to putting in that line. We've talked to realtors, real estate agents, title companies. The requirements for, I also know that one of my friends is going to talk about, maybe not today, about the assessment fees for putting in water, which go back many, many years, and there's no records for some of it. They're asking for records that no longer exist or are difficult to find. We spoke to some title companies about that. At any rate, I think it's necessary for this board to start making some movement towards holding that water providing company their feet to the coals to get them to put in those, extend those water mains. Those houses need to be occupied. Some people, some housing projects are in danger because they will not be able to satisfy their quota, and their funding may be withdrawn. At any rate, I'd appreciate you looking into that subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jerez. Dwayne DeCantu, and then Lakin Jorda. Dwayne. Lincoln. And following Lincoln is Asumani.
Osmaniel Wanson. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. Can you
Okay.
raise your hand? Okay, great, thank you.
You're next. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Lakin Jordahl, and I work with the Center for Biological Diversity. We're a nonprofit that seeks to protect wildlife, all wildlife, great and small, from the threat of extinction. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the center's more than 300 members in Santa Cruz County who strongly oppose any proposal to rezone or industrialize any part of the Santa Cruz River corridor. I'm also here today to speak on behalf of those who don't have a voice, like the endangered southwestern willow flycatcher and the yellow-billed cuckoo. These two extremely threatened and beautiful birds have federally designated critical habitat right along the river corridor and would be harmed by any future actions to industrialize and develop this land. The Santa Cruz River is an invaluable resource to Santa Cruz County and to all of southern Arizona. It's a key part of the restorative nature-based economy that enriches Santa Cruz County and beyond. Any county actions that could open the door to increased development, pollution, and harm to the river, its water, and its birds and wildlife must be taken seriously and weighed carefully. Like so many, I was dismayed to hear the rushed and barely publicized plan to rezone a massive swath of land along this gem of a river for industrial use. I applaud the community of concerned residents here for immediately speaking out to publicize this rushed decision, and I also express gratitude to the county for listening to these concerns and reevaluating the initial approval. Developers and mining companies always like to advertise the so-called prosperity such developments would bring to our communities. I'd like to remind the county that one of the biggest possible drivers for prosperity sits right in front of us, in the form of this beautiful river and the abundant life that it nourishes. Water is life in the desert. Any actions that could pollute or draw down our precious water must be rejected to allow future generations to survive here. A University of Arizona study determined that the existing nature-based restorative economy directly supports almost 800 jobs and contributes $31 million to Santa Cruz County, more jobs than South 32 says they could potentially provide. The best way to ensure a prosperous future for Southern Arizona is to preserve this incredible resource that is the Santa Cruz River. I hope that we can soon be discussing plans to expand protections for the life-giving water of the Santa Cruz River, not reduce or loosen them in hopes of short-term profits. I urge you to listen to the county residents and all of the wonderful people in this room and protect the river corridor from future development. Thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln. Ms. Swanson, and then following is Pam Lemke.
Good morning, members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm Osmamane Wanson and resident of Tumacacari for the last 15 years, 38 Santa Gertrudis Lane. And as many have and do, I did move here to raise my family in these beautiful rural lands for clean air and water and cultural diversity away from the hazards of toxins of industry. Originally from Australia, I personally witnessed the loss of life and livelihood due to Shell Oil's exploits of the coal mining industry there. So I'm very concerned about the present local issues of mining and the processing of manganese. The implications pose a very real threat to our environment on many levels, the land, health of the people and wildlife, and I feel is a huge compromise to our rural lifestyle and cultural heritage. I feel the board has not been transparent about the plans of private interest in Santa Cruz County. Father Kino would roll in his grave as a leader and who had a sound vision of how to really grow the economy of this region. It is clearly recorded and known the devastating effects on our health and the fallout from processing manganese, as many have stated here today. Please make the health and safety of our people that you represent a priority in your decision-making and assert your influences ethically, please. South 32's track record for protecting communities from the fallout of manganese dust is not good. To keep the integrity of this county's comprehensive plan and vision, I urge the board to consider the plans for development present or future that could cause any harm to the environment and the people. And instead, please be more forward-thinking to the long-range implications Please do not follow the unsustainable trends based on greed and profit motive at the expense of the well-being of the citizens. Work with your greater area team and the residents for our mutual best interests. And in the words of your mission statement, may I remind you of your goals to ensure that our river systems are conserved and managed as healthy, living, working ecosystems, and that the air and the water are clean and protected. We should work in harmony and cooperation with each other and implement a citizens advisory committee to help make the communities of this area true destination points. We can learn from the past, and we don't have to repeat the same old mistakes and sell out to the lures of corporate sophistry and flat-out lies that paints a very deceptive picture of the benefits of mining. We can look to and learn from other progressive countries and communities that have been able to reach their goals for their comprehensive plans. We can capitalize and develop the potentials of what we have at our fingertips and respect those in your midst who are innovative and can really work the beauty that we have, wildlife, the agriculture, the art, the history, and conservation efforts, and be resourceful to that end.
Thank you very much. Did you have a closing statement?
No, just to that end.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Lemke?
Hi, I'm Pam Lemke, and I live in Tubac.
And if you could hold on one second. Blue Evening Star is next. Thank you, Ms. Lemke.
So I live in Tubac, and this will be brief because a lot of other people here have spoken to some of my concerns about not wanting the parcels near the river industrialized, wanting to protect it. I just want to say that in looking at all of this and mobilizing the community response, I really feel that this is an amazing opportunity now, because what you've really done is you've engaged the community in having this conversation with you. And I personally have taken a pretty deep dive and looked at a lot of these documents. I looked at the comprehensive plan that was readopted and amended in 2016, and I really think that the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area plan that was approved by the Department of Interior. I understand it's non-regulatory, but that and the other plan that they're referencing from the university, those three plans have a vision for this county that's very consistent with what everybody in this room is telling you when they're opposing the placement of a manganese processing plant here, the presence of a mining operation here. And so I think it's really an opportunity for all of us to work together to get something that's more consistent. I do feel as a nurse that probably there are things that could be addressed for the people below the poverty level that are working hard already in this community, or perhaps unemployed, that might not be addressed by those nature-based economies. But instead of creating a platform for a mine to come and temporarily create jobs, we have a significant need in our community for jobs in the healthcare professions. We're bringing in, people traveling from out of the area to be radiation and ultrasound techs. So we should expand our community college and get some of those jobs here. We have people, talented, intelligent people. I was hired initially to teach down in Nogales at the Pima College Nursing program. That could be really expanded to include more people in our community. And then I just want to say, we need to get a comprehensive groundwater survey. This is an opportunity to get baseline studies of anything that's going to be impacted by any development study. I spent a lot of time researching things on the water board and actually called them last week. And we don't have a lot of water to increase our water usage. And so any plan we have moving forward should be based on a realistic assessment of what we have with that resource so that we can protect it for everybody that's already here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Blue Evening Star? And following Blue Evening Star is Christine Schwartz. No?
Good morning to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you for hearing us. My name's Blue Evening Star. I'm a human rights advocate, and I live at Avalon Organic Gardens in Eco Village, located at the north end of Pendleton Road in Rio Rico.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Can you move the microphone down so it captures your voice?
I'm a shorty.
Just push it down. There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm opposed to the insidious machinations of South 32. Their plan to process manganese in our watershed and turn our home into a human resource pool for their company's benefit is not acceptable. As a member of Global Community Communications Alliance, I've devoted over 30 years to help build Avalon Gardens, one of the largest eco-villages in the world, right here in Santa Cruz County. We've learned a lot about creating a lifestyle of living in balance with one another and our environment. Among many other things, we teach methods of farming in arid regions, which is necessary in these times that the UN now calls global boiling. I've also been on the board of Friends of the Santa Cruz River for 15 years. Our humble river is a restorative, healthy ecosystem that, along with the health of the people in our community, are our most valuable assets. I believe it is your job to do all in your power to protect this now and for future generations. I hope you will learn from the recent events that many here want to uphold the comprehensive plan as it is. I urge you to halt any and all future proposals which are out of character with the area, developments that facilitate mining and its related activities, until we gain assurances in writing that these projects will not harm the character of our way of life and the overall health of our community. Arizona has more species of bees than anywhere else in the world. We also have the fragile and endangered cottonwood, willow, gallery forest in the riparian corridor of the Santa Cruz River, where more species of birds exist than any other ecosystem in the world, with the exception of the rainforest. This region was designated a National Heritage Area in 2020, one of only 15 so designated in the country. In short, opportunities for ecotourism abound. The tremendous resources of this community, which are mobilizing now to protect and defend this unique and intact bioregion, can also be easily directed toward brainstorming environmentally and culturally innovative plans for the future that will support economic growth for all. I urge you to reject the $100,000 Trojan horse from South 32, and it would go very far to rebuild the trust and goodwill of the people, were you to establish a citizens advisory committee to design and help implement projects that served not private interests, but the public good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And Ms. Schwartz, and then following is Maxie Adler, sorry.
Good morning. My name is Kirsten Schwartz. I'm 45 years old, and I'm a resident at 2074 Pendleton Drive, Rio Rico. I moved here from Philadelphia with my son nearly 14 years ago, and I've been a resident here ever since. I never thought I would end up in a desert, but with all of the natural biodiversity, heritage crops, and culture, this area has become our home, to which I truly love. It would be devastating to think that profit gain of economic greed could possibly diminish Santa Cruz County. There are so many ways we can do things differently if we, the people raising our families with a new vision, can have our priorities straight. Why use harsh developing and mining that ruins our environment and poisons our people, including the 7 generations ahead, as a sacrifice to have money go in the pocket of a few? Our founding fathers wrote such a vision and standard for our country. Quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the rights of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. We must find true liberty through taking care of our environment and one another, and we must be firm in our unwavering commitment to allow for new ideas to bring in revenue, to create opportunity for all communities in a safe manner that does not strip away resources, but gives back. And in closing, water is life. If you take away our water, if you ruin it and poison it, the life will disappear. Pretty common sense, if you ask me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maxie Adler. And
Thank you for this opportunity to advocate on behalf of the Santa Cruz River. My name is Maxie Adler, and I'm here as a nature lover, an artist, a birder, and the co-founder of the Tucson Birthplace Open Space Coalition, also known as TBOSC, which seeks to protect the Santa Cruz River and floodplain at Tucson's birthplace at the base of Black Mountain, also known as Sentinel Peak, and A Mountain. As a Tucsonan, I am awed by this beautiful, life-giving river you've got in your backyard. To be honest, I also feel pretty envious, as it wasn't all that long ago that Tucson also had a flowing river, Mesquite Bosque and Cottonwood Gallery, that sustained a riparian zone similar to what we see on the Santa Cruz River in Rio Rico and Tumacacori. The river corridor here in Santa Cruz County provides us Tucsonans inspiration for what's possible downstream in our efforts to finally restore flows and riparian habitat to the Santa Cruz and Tucson. I love coming to the river corridor in Tumacacori to walk the De Anza Trail along a flowing river. I come here with my friends and other members of the Tucson Birthplace Open Space Coalition to imagine what's possible as we restore flows to the Santa Cruz and Tucson. I bring friends in hopes of hearing the call of a yellow-billed cuckoo, a bird that inspires many of my artworks. And I truly do look to the work that's been done in Santa Cruz County as inspiration for what's possible as we work to restore river flows in Tucson. As downstream residents, we look to Santa Cruz County as stewards of this river corridor, and we implore you to always make decisions that will protect the nourishing waters and incredible biodiversity of the Santa Cruz River. I urge you to think not just about short-term profits and tax margins, but the long-term value of having such an incredible resource that makes this place so special. I hope you continue to be responsible stewards of the Santa Cruz and reject all future opportunities to hand over any land to industrial uses that will imperil the river and its wildlife. Thank you.
thank you very much for driving down. Christine Hogan. Christine, are you in the room?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're online. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Christine Hogan Leeser. I live at 1651 Circolo Guyana. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I wanted to talk about, I spent most of my childhood in Tucson. We moved to Virginia, and I spent most of my teen and adult years there wishing, and I used to be a pain in my dad's butt, that we could move back to Arizona. When the chance finally came up, my husband and I looked all around Green Valley because that's where my in-laws live, who we wanted to be close to. Green Valley was not our speed. Salado was not our speed. We wanted something beautiful and rural. We bought, finally, after spending 2 years looking, in Rio Rico. We bought our little house on the hill. It's our dream home. It's surrounded by beautiful views, the river, the trees, the animals, the insects. They bring us so much joy every single day. We love it here. We spent every penny we have coming here and are investing it in our home and improvements in our home. I feel like when we signed our mortgage, we were kind of sold a bill of sales because we bought for one thing, but now it's potentially being turned into something else. It breaks my heart to think of the animals, the insects, the water, the air, the beautiful fields, the pastures, the mountains, everything, all of the natural beauty that is here could be forsaken and disappear because we're more worried about the mighty dollar. And I understand the mighty dollar is important. That's why I'm not there today. I'm actually at work. My husband is at work. We can't afford to just up and move somewhere else. This is where we plan on spending the rest of our days. I beg the county to please consider all of these other things that these people have mentioned before me. I won't go and repeat them all, but consider the beauty, the resources that you have. We don't need to bring in more junk to just destroy the beauty that's here. We need to find ways to take advantage of what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Joni Clark Steller. Are you online, Joni, or are you in the boardroom? Joni Clark Steller. Michael White. Michael White, are you online or are you in the boardroom? Patricia.
Hi, I'm here. Hello? Can you hear me, sir?
Michael?
Yes, hi, hello. Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Shall I go ahead?
Yep, your 3 minutes starts now. You need to introduce yourself and your address, please.
I live at 2074 Pendleton Drive in Rio Rico. In regards to Mr. Jackson withdrawing his application to rezone, I think we can all breathe a big sigh of relief. What I'd like to share with the board is the next time there is a project of this magnitude being proposed, please include the public at its early stages. There are so many bright people who live in this county, and their input would be invaluable. Regarding Mr. Jackson, he's not online, but if he were, what I'd like to tell him is simply this. One of the things he said is he really wanted to raise the standard of living for the average Rio Rico resident. You know, I recently completed the Santa Cruz County Tourism Sector Prosperity Plan, and there's some really interesting ideas in there. And this plan talks about ecotourism as one of the ways to drive the engine of the Santa Cruz County economy. So Mr. Jackson could dovetail with that if he really wants to increase the livelihood opportunities for residents here. He could incorporate, he has all these beautiful properties along the river. They could be ecotourism destinations within the county, hiking, birdwatching, guided tours, stressing the area's history, educational-based tours, emphasizing regenerative agriculture. These are all money-making activities that could be developed utilizing his holdings, even reaching out to Arizona-based educational institutions who might be interested in partnering with these efforts. Now, this would create direct employment for local guides and docents who could proudly share their knowledge and heritage of the area. and would create additional employment for lodging and restaurant businesses that would be supported by increased tourism visits to the area. No doubt the county could offer some support to developing this area. This would be a win-win-win situation. The local economy would benefit, raising the standard of living. The environment would be preserved, even enhanced. And Mr. Jackson could even gain the satisfaction of knowing that he made a genuine contribution to the betterment of the county and its residents. I hope this will be thoroughly explored. Finally, I'd like to comment on the South 32's proposal to fund educational programs in our schools. While it is certainly tempting to accept these funds, we must realize it will come with strings attached. Sooner or later, South 32 is going to want some special favors for their financial contributions. You know, in a way, their money could be likened to the free drugs a pusher offers to their future would-be customers, hoping they become hooked. Let's get the drug pushers off our streets, and let's get South 32 out of our schools. Regarding their offer of funding, to quote Nancy Reagan, please just say no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patricia Glogowski? Good morning.
My name is Patricia Glogowski, and I live in Tubac, Arizona. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge with great respect the speakers this morning. So much research was offered, even quoting the Constitution. So I respect them, and I would still like to read my humble letter with my feelings. I know that yesterday, late in the evening, it was relayed to us that some of the reclassification, or what was taken from Mr. Jackson's proposal, but who knows what might come up in the future. So I would like to say this. During our last board meeting, there were well over 2 hours of our residents voicing their perspective and opinions of the proposal. And as these days go on, more people and organizations have made aware of this devastating proposal. In addition to the residents that you're hearing from, various environmental groups are reaching out to save this pristine spot. I do trust and hope that you intently listen and consider the educated, researched, medical, and experience that they offer. We have a most precious gift in this area with the riches of nature for our residents, our visitors, our tourists. No amount of money can ever buy this. You are all on the board to represent and act on the wishes of the people, and you certainly have been made well aware of those. Trust in the integrity of the Santa Cruz officials is sadly waning, but it could come back. South 32 has a documented reputation of the laid waste ways they have raped and poisoned the land and the health of the people. They have done this in many places. Please do not let Rio Rico fall for their deceptive motives. The morals of trust and truth are paramount, and the lack of transparency from the developers speaks for those. Are the detrimental health effects of our people in regard to the water and air pollution that this plan will bring worth trading the monies that developers and even out-of-country companies will glean? Will the devastating effects on the birds, animals, wildlife not be an unrecoverable loss to our community and to our world? Is there true concern for the younger generations who will be the ones ultimately affected with the polluted water? If this goes through, the future use of this beautiful land is in an unpredictable jeopardy. Our gem, and it truly is a treasured, unique gem, will be sacrificed. The Native American people had the philosophy in making decisions on how it would affect 7 generations from the time of their choices. These poisons to our water and air and environment will affect your children and grandchildren as well. Morals versus monies. So I guess I would respectfully ask you to be able to look in the mirror knowing that you did the moral thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. LaMay Bremer. LaMay. Are you online? You're looking at a much bigger board than I am. Did you find her? Okay, did you unmute her? You're unmuted, LaMay. LaMay?
She has herself muted.
You need to unmute yourself. How are we doing?
Unmute herself still.
You need to unmute yourself, LaMay, so we can hear you. Or raise your hand if you can hear us talking to you. It'll come back. Anut Nelson. Anut Nelson. Are they still on? You people can read the big board. Is she still up there?
Mr. Chair, I think LaMay just sent the message that she was unmuted.
No, you can see on the screen that she has herself muted, even though we unmuted her on this side, she's muted on her side. You see that right there? She's muted.
So is she unmuted on our side, Hog?
She's unmuted on our side, but she's
So
muted.
LaMay, you need to unmute yourself. Nope. Anut Nelson. Anut Nelson. Did you find him?
No, there's no Nelson in there. We don't have a Nelson in there.
Nope. Karen Bennett. Karen Bennett. Nope. Aladi Goodman.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Good morning. Good morning,
Hi.
Phil.
Hi, good morning. Yes, my name is Aladi Goodman. Thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to say I've lived in Rio Rico with my family since 2007. I'm a human rights advocate and an ordained minister, and I serve the local people of Santa Cruz County as a hospice nurse. I'm the director of Solistic Hospice, which is a local nonprofit organization, and we employ approximately 50 staff members here in this local Santa Cruz area. We can and do give local people honorable employment, where they serve the local community and feel good about what they've done at the end of the day, and we do have employment available. So I really appreciated what Pam Letsky said about developing more local healthcare training, because it's very much needed, and there is a shortage of people here who are trained in the healthcare profession. As a hospice nurse, I've also seen much disease and illness that includes the effects of environmental pollution. I've cared for people at the end of life who have suffered from their mining vocations. And their employment in the mines was supposed to bring their family's livelihood, but it only brought illness disease, and sadly even death. So I agree with all that's been said so far against the proposed mining and the development of this beautiful county. We don't want Rio Rico to become a small city, and all we need to do is look to our neighbors in in Sahuarita, where the development there is sprawling almost to Tucson now. And the mining also in that local area is impacting the health of people, especially the children who are the most vulnerable. So as a healthcare professional, I want to emphasize that the so-called jobs that these proposals would bring will in no way surpass the risks that our family will have due to the poisons and toxins that they're exposed to, including air and water pollution. There can be no benefits from these jobs if our families are sick. So in closing, I just want to encourage us that we need to look to the future of our children and our grandchildren and make responsible decisions that protect and honor the gift that we have, one that is so easily taken for granted, and that is the gift of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vesbin Raymond. Vesbin Raymond. Nope. Piscine Francis.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ms.
Good
Francis.
morning. I mean, yes, it's still morning.
That's right.
Hi, my name is Piscine Francis, and I am a human rights advocate. I live at 32 Santa Gertrudis Lane. I appreciate you letting me live and share with you in our beloved community. I am a teacher and a mother of 2 young children. I oppose any approval of donations from South 32. The reputation of South 32 is devastating in its track record to water, land, and air. They have already cut dangerous corners in Patagonia in regards to water in our county. Manganese mining and processing cannot coincide with healthy residential life here, despite propaganda of sustainable practices and dishonest presentation with their safe technology. Dangerous exposure to manganese and its wastewater is underground pollution that goes into our water and aquifer. We have water and allocation rights issues to solve, and when a mine will consume, divert, or pollute, we need to clarify those needs for our common life source first. Don't we need to capitalize on water catchment and containment methods and not lose our vital groundwater? Accepting donations opens a gateway for South 32's true intentions to groom us as a company mining town. As stated by the Hermosa Projects page, it is future drilling in this prospective corridor. Please protect your constituents by looking for honest developments in this time of crisis in our world. We need to come together to seek solutions for economic development that benefits all of us. We have an extremely rich agricultural region with a fruitful and self-sustaining heritage. Our precious natural refuge has been nationally recognized as diverse with untapped ethical economic opportunities, and it is considered by many here as sacred. Forward-thinking water-saving technologies, along with conservation practices and cleaner wastewater processing, will be the most beneficial and necessary in times of drought, which we can invest in and ultimately sustain ourselves. Our greatest resource is truly the souls here, willing to protect and invest in our community, united in solutions and actions. As a board, I thank you and ask you to be responsible to ensure that this public interest is of your highest service. Service, purposeful service, not slavery, is productive of the highest satisfaction and is expressive of the divinest dignity, and this will truly serve the whole. This is the future I implore you to partake in with all of us. May God guide your decisions, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Octavia Trujillo. Octavina Trujillo. You're online. Ms. Trujillo. Are you still on?
Ms. Trujillo had to leave.
Thank you. Georgina Jaquez? Are you still online?
She's online, but she's muted.
Pardon?
She's online, but she's muted.
Ms. Jaquez, you're muted on your end. Can you open up your mic and you can speak? Can you raise your hand so you can acknowledge that you can hear us? Okay. Lynn Newman? Who raised her hand?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Miss Newman. Is this
Hi.
Miss Newman?
I wasn't planning on speaking today. I have a property at 1708 Via San Quitano.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Who are we speaking to?
This is Lynn Newman, 1708 Via San Quitano.
Thank you.
I'm not in the state right now. If I were, I would be at the meeting. I would be at every meeting. Thank you for giving me time to express my thoughts. My husband and I have lived in the Rio Rico area for 6 years. We moved because we had friends here. We moved to enjoy the views, the river, the rural feel, the livestock we could have here. I am a former healthcare professional, a master's trained educator and counselor, and my husband worked as a quality engineer at the 32 mine until recently. He left the job last year. He worked in the water treatment end. I haven't been able to speak with him in depth regarding the situation here, but I will say that he was very concerned and found these developments very disturbing. He did say right away, he said, no, this can't happen. He also worked as a quality engineer in the building of a huge LNG plant. The plant was being built in China by Chevron, and it was to be shipped to Western Australia. So it was really underwritten by Australia. We lived in China during this construction for 2.5 years. So based on that, I would say my husband knows what he's talking about when it comes to mining, energy production, and quality and safety. It was very interesting living in China and hearing his struggles with ensuring quality throughout the project. I guess I'm really disturbed that this appears to have been in the pipeline for a while. I'm getting the feeling that it seems that Cell 32 and Mr. Jackson have done a lot of peddling and homework over the last year or so. I'm thinking they've met with our board and other stakeholders privately. This is just my guess. I would also guess that Mr. Jackson will directly sell his land to 32 at this point and let them try to fight the zoning with their lawyers. I hope that's not going to happen. I am a former staff member of Nogales High School, and I was constantly amazed at the small thinking I encountered in terms of what Nogales could be, what our kids could be, our families' futures could be. And this could be without a mine and without their educational money. We have so much potential here. Our kids are amazing. I think, part of this is the attraction of the Biden administration critical minerals fast track 41. It seems to be really wonderful and patriotic on the surface, but I would guess most of the places wouldn't be interested in mineral processing.
Ms. Newman, you're out of time. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much for your
guys.
comments. Catherine Ituli. Catherine, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you. When you're done introducing yourself and giving your address, your time will start.
I am Catherine Ituli, 1150 Avenida Leon in Rio Rico. I just want to say that I'm very, very proud of all the public speakers today. Thank you all so much. So, in regards to the recent press release that came from Director Frank Dillon of Community Development regarding Baca Float number 3 Major Comprehensive Plan Amendment and the specific zoning plan application that has been withdrawn, I would like to shed some light on an interesting topic, the topic of neurolinguistics. If anyone here is not familiar with neurolinguistics, please do study it, because this press release is filled with neurolinguistic tactics and techniques. Excuse me. For example, did anyone notice that the word development and derivatives of that word appear more than 20 times in the 2.5-page press release? And let's not forget that Santa Cruz County just hired a public relations firm for thousands of dollars each month using taxpayer dollars to pay for these, what I call spin doctors. This letter is literally doing nothing more than letting us know that all parties involved are regrouping to come back, perhaps when our guard is down. But make no mistake, our guard will never be down, and we who oppose this entire proposal will never tire of fighting to protect Rio Rico from those who would dare to cause harm to her. Here is a point that I would really like to drive home. It makes me feel both very sad and extremely angry that it seems like our county is literally going out of its way to do things against or make things hard for the people that it is supposed to protect, and actually seems to help the entities that its constituents are in opposition to. It is then no wonder why the community at large feels a level of disdain towards the county. We don't want to, but how can we help it? We feel constantly like, you know, we not only do we have to protect ourselves from Andrew Jackson and South 32 mining, but also from Santa Cruz County itself. So to close, South 32 has a horrible track record for ruining communities all over the world. How can Santa Cruz County even consider letting them into our community? Please, no to rezoning, no to Article 31, no to South 32, including their so-called donations. Please, please, please help us, not them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Satuli. Norma Dampier?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Your time will start after you introduce yourself and let us know your address.
Okay, my name is Norma Dampier. I live on Camino Josefina in Rio Rico. And good afternoon, everyone. Well, like others, I'm happy Mr. Jackson withdrew his rezoning applications. I'm also very skeptical, like others, and know that this is not the end of this. I'm encouraged to read that the county has placed a temporary moratorium on the use of Article 31. I think this would be a great time for the Board of Supervisors to form an advisory committee provided in Section 312 of the Santa Cruz County Zoning Development Code. The one thing Santa Cruz County has is a lot of amazing people that have very good ideas and input that will help our county prosper in a way that will save the uniqueness and beauty of our area and create careers and not just jobs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the boardroom that would like to speak? Yeah, well, not you, Steve. Hold on. You said you wanted to go last. Sit down. Is there anybody else online? There's some people with their hands up. It's called Orion.
Yes, I'd like to speak. I'd like to speak. Hello?
Hold on. Who's talking to me?
He has to identify himself.
I need
Hello?
you to
Can you
identify
hear me?
yourself and your address, please.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
My name is Kareen Bennett, and you called my name and I just couldn't unmute. So I still hope that I can make a few comments.
No, you
I
lost
live on
Who is it?
2074 Pendleton Drive. Can you hear me?
I don't know who you are.
Kareen Bennett.
Thank you.
And 2074 Pendleton Drive, Rio Rico, of course.
Okay.
I really appreciate just a moment to talk. I'm a minister and a spiritual care coordinator. I have lived in the county for 13 years. I have a master's in urban and regional planning, and I'm 75 years old. I have never lived in a place I love more than this area. And I think we are all on the brink of a new beginning with the county. We will have now a chance to say in what the future holds. I am familiar with the Comprehensive Development Plan of 2016 and the zoning amendments which were recently proposed. I am certainly grateful for the fact that they were pulled. What I hope for now is a change of approach from being reactive to the Andy Jacksons and South 32 mining, and to be proactive in a cooperative effort looking at ideas that, well, are innovative or community building. I think that's what my hope is. There is a reality of private interests in concert with the support of the public good. But private interests can't dictate to the public good, and that's my point. What is the public good? We, as the residents of Santa Cruz County, what is it that we seek? So that is the question I think it's worth dedicating ourselves to. I certainly am volunteering. I think that the 2016 plan is actually a start, is a place to begin. And we all have the opportunity now to offer our input, our ideas, and to put our shoulders into this. And for that, it would be our home that we grow in the coming years. And so I take this opportunity to say thank you to all those that have made their that made themselves available this morning, and the comments that they've made, and to the Board of Supervisors for being here, being with us, and we look forward to that time of working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a couple more people with their hands up. There's no phone number on it, but it says Orion instead of a phone number.
Can you hear me?
Are you Orion? Yes. I need you to state your name and your address, please.
Yeah, my name is Orion Niles. My address is 38 Santa Gertrudis Lane in Rio Rico. Excuse me. I'm a human rights advocate of about 28 years. I appreciate the time to speak today. And thanks to everyone for all your heartfelt comments and insightful comments so far. I've been in this county for about 15 years. I'm raising children here. I'm against any rezoning of any part of our county for industrial mining or acceptance of any of their dirty money. Now is the time to get these interests out and keep them out. History shows once they're in, they're here. Their reps try to polish themselves up to look like God's gift to Mother Earth. But make no mistake, they're wolves in sheep's clothing. They don't care about us or our children. They've calculated the costs, the fines, etc. We only have to look at anything they've done around the world, as many have said. A few clips from their abuses around the world. Gemco Manganese Mine in Australia, concerningly high levels of heavy metals in locals' hair and nails, 20 times normal range, even 20 kilometers from the facilities. New South Wales, systemic failure in mines, illegal use of drinking water catchment, record $5.6 million payout for illegal draining of drinking water without a license, leukemia clusters. Mine projects officer says brazenly reckless and greed-driven proposal, water loss is permanent. Brazil, extensive ecological damage, fines for environmental violations, appealing fines, not paying the fines. Colombia, Cerro Matoso nickel mine. Court rules mine must pay damages to local communities, lung and heart problems, lung cancer. Colombian journalist Rafael Moreno murdered while investigating the mine. So I could go on, but that it's really clear the people that we're dealing with. So let's not let them in our community. Let's keep this a sacred place. Everybody has shared. This is a special place. So I implore you as board members to protect us. Don't let these greedy interests come in to destroy the county. And they need to be kept out now. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. And then we have somebody whose phone number ends in 571.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please state your name and your address before you speak.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Ionia Aslan, and I'm a human rights advocate and minister. I've lived at 38 Santa Gertrudis Lane in Tumacacori for 14 years. I agree with all that has been said already and won't repeat it all. I am recalling when we were in the streets protesting in the 1960s, we were against the corporate control of the government and hopeful that we could make a difference. I am still hopeful. To start with a positive, I too am excited about the coalition of activated citizens that is forming in Santa Cruz County for the common good of all. The secrecy with which this mining plan was long hatched and then thrust upon us resulted in calling friends and neighbors together in a lovely united action. To state the obvious, of course we want to be part of the decision-making process for the future of the county we live in. And we want our elected government officials to reflect the vision of the majority of the citizens. I had a couple comments on the disease that's called by the bioaccumulation of manganese. This disease was named almost 200 years ago when it was observed in miners in Scotland. The studies have been done. The results are known. The disease is irreversible. Death can come after as little as 1 month of high exposure and or continued lesser chronic exposure. The United States was created as one nation under God. A government by and for the people does not promote this type of legacy for the people they serve. This is the 21st century. For revenue creation, we can reinvent the wheel, and we can also draw from what others who are forward-thinking, both here and around the country and world, have already proven is creative and sustainable. Thank you for hearing the overwhelming opposition to this plan. I agree, as said previously, that our United Guard will never be let down. I agree that the 2016 comprehensive plan is a place to start. Lastly, I plead with you that as soon as possible, those posted South 32 signs be removed from our sacred walkways. Please say no and join the citizens offering ideas and offering to volunteer their time in think tanking a bright vision for the future of Santa Cruz County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have one more hand up. It's 908. You need to unmute yourself. The phone number that ends in 908.
Can you hear me?
Are you Lame?
Yes, I am.
Can you turn, you have multiple things on that you're getting an echo?
I just turned down my speaker.
That helped.
Can you hear?
Okay, Lame. Your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
My name's LeMay Bremer. I reside on Pendleton Drive. I've lived in Arizona for 28 years, and I live in Rio Rico for 15 years. I just want to say, I read an article in The Guardian yesterday about a man from West Virginia who's using his drone to document the devastation done to his hometown by coal mining. And the article starts with him telling his story. He remembers his elementary school being caked in coal dust and the representatives from the nearby mine showing up to hand out to the children squeezable toys in the shape of lumps of coal. His friends and family worked for the mine, and he watched them get poisoned, get sick, and die, and have babies with birth defects. The coal mining left relatively quickly, and now there's no sign of prosperity in this town. There is addiction and poverty. So I thought to myself while reading this that something very similar is happening here in Santa Cruz County. South 32 is moving in and buying support by offering funds to school for programs designed to train children to become miners. So while it appears now that the citizens of Rio Rico do not want mining operations to move in, and as spoken by many before, a lot of research has been done and a lot of evidence has been unearthed about environmental damage, health damage, depletion of water. History doesn't have to repeat itself. And if South 32 is such a socially conscious company, will they respect and honor the majority of the citizens who do not want mining operations in this county? Yes, the schools could use the funds. But would South 32 consider contributing with no strings attached? I doubt it. And I cannot support a donation that has an agenda behind it. There are many programs that could be designed for students that would hold the vision of the comprehensive plan, protect the environment, and keep them and their families healthy. Many citizens of Santa Cruz County have mobilized and are advocating for sustainable development. And I'm very confident that brainstorming or a think tank committee could be formed to create educational opportunities for our students that will engage them to find innovative ideas to stimulate the Santa Cruz County economy in a responsible way. And once again, I oppose this donation unless South 32 would like to contribute anonymously and just leave the money at the door when they leave.
Okay, your time has expired. Thank you very much, Lummi. So we have somebody with their hand up there. Oh, did they move? That was her? Okay. Steve McEwen, your wish has been granted. We were able to.
I appreciate that, sir. Good morning. I'm Steve McEwen. I am a resident of Santa Cruz County and Rio Rico. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff. I'm a United States citizen, a veteran, and a patriot. I'm proud to share with you my forefathers fought in this country's for this country's freedom in 1776, and later helped settle points in the frontier in Kentucky and later on in Washington State. As chairman of Santa Cruz, I take the responsibility of educating the citizens on how their government affects them and how they can affect their government. Recently, I've taken a class in the Patriot Academy in Biblical Citizenship. I'd like to share a couple points from class 4 of 8. This is the greatest country in the world due to the wisdom of our forefathers and in the creation of the longest living constitution in the history of man. It is nearly 250 years old. All others in history have lasted as long as 8 years. This is due to the radical and revolutionary concept of authority laid out by the Constitution. Instead of our Constitution giving authority to man, our forefathers recognized that our inalienable rights are given to us by God. One of those inalienable rights is the pursuit of happiness. The right and all others cannot be taken away from us by man or government because man and government did not give them to us. In keeping with these inalienable rights, was the concept that the authority to govern was given by the people to guide those we elect to sit in our government. The sole responsibility of our government is to protect the citizens and their rights as outlined in our Constitution. It is also noted by our forefathers that the citizens' responsibility is to be educated, well-informed to guide our government. The 14th Amendment goes on to protect all people to be treated equally in the state, no matter what their economic status is, no matter what their ethnicity or what religion they go by. Literally translated, one could question whether this board has the authority to decide if this economic corridor should be approved or disapproved, given that you may be tromping on somebody's rights for pursuit of happiness. It seems that it's up to the citizens who wish to partake in this opportunity to make that decision, and therefore the opportunity needs to be given to them. A great deal of what I've heard in the last 3 meetings here seems to be made up of conjecture, conspiracy theories, horror stories of third world countries that hardly represent the law and order that we have in this country. I come from a mining state, and I understand what can and cannot happen, but I don't believe that's the case here, although there's many that would want you to believe that. I also feel that there is a special interest group that is trying to curb the decision making here, and you are not representing the people of Santa Cruz County. I'd like you to keep in mind that one of the biggest treasures I find in Santa Cruz County is the central families that we have here. Let's make sure we hear from them, and may God give us peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Okay, that ends call to the public. And we're going to move on to current events.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I will try and be as brief as possible. Good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to, on behalf of my family, send out my deepest condolences to the Jung family and the passing of David Jung. He was a true gentleman and good citizen of our community. He will be missed. I also want to thank staff for helping me prepare for the open house we hosted at Rio Rico High School. It was good to have individual conversations with a lot of people there. I also want to thank everyone that's spoken in the last 3 meetings. I really appreciate your detailed research, your educated opinions, and thank you. The board and staff and I attended the National Association of Counties in Austin, Texas last week, where 2 of the critical issues were mental health and affordable housing. I had the honor of presenting at the International Economic Development Committee, representing the southwest border. Another gentleman spoke on behalf of the northwest border, which borders New York State and Canada. And my focus was on the billions of dollars generated by fresh produce import from Mexico. And the next item I want to speak of is I want to thank our supervisor and our county manager and myself met with Carolyn Schaefer, and Carolyn represents the Power Group. And Carolyn, I want to thank you for describing in detail what you and the Power Group is doing for our community in reference to to protect the air and water quality. And that's all I have for today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Reese.
I'll try to keep it shorter.
Sorry, you guys.
No, thank you. I thank everyone for their emails or comments. Many look like they've been copied and reshared with us. That's okay. I haven't responded to any of them because there's a lot. I also want to thank our staff for forwarding many of the emails. I know Lizbeth has sent, yesterday I probably got 20 forward emails from concerned citizens. I know water is a big topic, but I would like to remind everyone that the Santa Cruz River is flowing because we've got 20 million gallons of sewage that's treated at the sewage plant and then released into the river. That's water that's generated in Mexico, and if Mexico would ever want their water back, I don't think that the river would be as it is now. I was born and raised here over 60 years, and I remember that Santa Cruz River flowing from Highway 82 all the way north. And because of growth in Mexico, that river has really dried up. So, you know, we talk a lot about other things too, and I do want to say, and I would recommend that there was a very good 60 Minutes report on water on Sunday, and what the Colorado River and what many of these communities are dealing with, and I know growth is a big issue. And I also want to thank staff for everything that they have done. I know Mr. Jackson retracted his request, and certainly as a landowner, he has any right to approach the planning and zoning again if he wants to. I know that there was a lot of misunderstanding with this thing because there was 3 notices that were not published in Nogales International after they was submitted by staff, and of course that created a big what's happening behind closed doors thing, and that's not our intent. But all of you as citizens have every right to attend our planning and zoning committees. When they come, they meet right here. There's 9 members. We want your input. And so, and as far as South 32 is concerned, South 32 is governed or approved by the state of Arizona. This board has very little or no authority whatsoever to control what that mine's going to do. And so if you want to do that, I think you need to reach out to the state and let them know. As far as water, we do not control water. That is the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality that regulates water, which I understand, and thank you for many of your comments on water. We understand the importance of water, but those are things beyond our pay grade. And so if those things need to change, then it needs to come from the state, not from us. We will do everything we can to protect the interest of every citizen and everybody that wants to do business in this community, because that's what we were elected to do. And we've sat here, and I want to thank all of you for being very courteous and polite on some of the things. I know that gentleman that was talking to the audience, the call to the public is designed to educate the board. You already know what you guys want, and he's not going to play to you, but you know, you don't accuse people of doing things behind closed doors if you don't have any proof. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for voicing your opinions. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there that have voiced different opinions than those of yours, but we treat everyone the same. No one's better than the other. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I think I outdid Rudy. So
You did outdo Rudy. I'm not going to try to keep mine short. So since the last board meeting, I attended a binational Bridges and Borders meeting. That was an overnight trip to Washington, D.C. On the way back, I stopped in Austin to attend the NACO conference with my 2 board mates and a couple staff members. Jesus Valdez was there, and so was our IT director, Juan Valderas. Thank you. I need more food. Juan Valderas, he attends IT meetings. I attended a binational, a border workshop when I was at the conference. It's very interesting to hear what CBP and what Customs has to say, and also to hear what's going on in El Paso County, because what's going on in El Paso County and how they're dealing with migrants is very similar to what Pima County is doing and helping Santa Cruz, Cochise, and parts of Yuma County in transportation of migrants away from the border to their destinations. It's being funded by the, I am really bad today, sorry. It's being funded by a grant from FEMA. It's an $800 million grant that Senator Sinema led to get funded with Senator Kelly. It's support for the border communities because we are inundated by people that are getting papers from Customs and from Border Patrol to be in the country. So they're applying for amnesty, they're getting their paperwork, they're allowed to come into the country, and if these programs weren't active, these people would be sitting in Nogales, Arizona, Douglas, Arizona, Ajo, Arizona, El Paso, Texas, saying, now what do I do? So I really congratulate and both of these counties are using their emergency services departments to run these programs. So I congratulate them for the great humanitarian work that they're doing. But what I like to tell the federal government is, we're not here to do your job. These people have real work that they have to be doing for our constituents in preparedness, and they're not able to do that because they're providing these other functions. So I got an opportunity to tell the representatives from DHS that, and I let our senators and our congressmen know that also. I was back in town soon enough to do the District 35 back to school blitz, and it was nice to see the kids. Some of them are excited to go back to school. Some of them would rather been asleep in their cars, but there was a lot of excitement with the kids to go back to school, and it was really fun. I asked one kid what his favorite thing at school was. He looked at me straight faced and said, math. I know there's hope. When a kid tells you math, it's really good. I have dealt with, like my two board mates, a lot of emails and phone calls on the rezoning issue. There's a lot of things in what people are telling me that I do agree with. But as Supervisor Reese says, there's a lot of things that are not in our control. So rezoning is a process. So we don't control, the Board of Supervisors and the county don't control the application. The person who makes the landowner controls the application. Once that application is made, then we control the process. And the process is that it comes to a planning and zoning meeting, and then after they hear it, they send a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. We hold a hearing, and all these times, those two places are opportunities for you to speak. Successful applications generally have multiple hearings outside of the county purview held by the property owner. So if you look at what's going on in Tubac with the development on the west side of the freeway, it's 56 acres. They've held 2 meetings, public meetings, and then they've held a study session with planning and zoning, and then they'll come back to planning and zoning and hold another hearing so people can have their comments. So these are all processes. It allows the public to engage with the government, and then the Planning and Zoning Committee will run it, will vote on an opinion. Community development will write up a report. They will submit it to us. Those are the things that we consider, as well as the comments that are made during the hearing that we will hold during something like this. Mr. Jackson has withdrawn his application, which means the hearing that we are going to have next week is no longer on our docket. But we would have held a hearing before that. It would have been its own little process within our board meeting. So I just wanted to clarify that. I also had an opportunity to meet with Carolyn Schaefer, and I appreciate the fact that she's reached out to the 3 supervisors individually. She can do that because she's not sharing what we're saying. That would not be okay. But I've always told Carolyn that I appreciate the work of PARA, because they're doing a job of holding South 32 to higher standards in that community. And I think that is a very, very important work. They've networked really, really well. They've gotten a lot of big environmental organizations behind them and the lawsuits that they've filed. They've not filed lawsuits against South 32. They've filed lawsuits against the U.S. Forest Service and the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. So we will see where those suits take us. But again, like Supervisor Reese said, we don't control mining. So South 32 got their foothold in Santa Cruz County because the state had a problem in the Patagonia Mountains. Asargo had left a mine and the tailings, and the heavy metals were leaching into Adams Gulch, flowing into the Flex Canyon, into Sonoyta Creek, into into Patagonia Lake, and then further down. So the state's solution to dealing with that was to sell the property. They sold the property to an exploratory mining company. They dealt with the tailings. They are now in what's called the dry stack tailing method. And, but it also gave them the opportunity to do what they're doing. So again, private property, Santa Cruz County, and what we learned about what we can do with mining was when we had the asphalt plant on the sand and gravel pit in Rio Rico when they were resurfacing I-19. And we requested that they move their asphalt manufacturing 250 yards to the north to move it away from the houses. And there was nothing that Santa Cruz County could do because it was considered a derivative of a mining operation. And in Arizona state law, counties can't touch that. So it is something that if you're upset at us about mining and letting South 32 into our community, you need to start reading on Arizona mining law because it is very restrictive as what local communities can do. But that is what I've been explaining to my constituents when they've been talking to them on the phone. My letter was a lot shorter than that, but that's all I have to say. And we will move on to the manager's report.
Mr. Chairs, members of the board, I also attended with the board of the NACO 2023 annual conference. I attended a couple of sessions. One of them was economic development on border regions. Another session is using AI, robotics, and drones for field utilization to gather data. Promising field. I also attended a meeting with the Tucson Film that was hosted by the Nogales Chamber of Commerce. The state has developed incentives to allow filming and filming in the county in the state and they're hoping to, they came and talked to us to, hopefully they will film in our county.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item E, department reports and activities. Item 1, finance, cash investments and expenditures, revenues.
Good afternoon.
Mauricio, you're back on.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The cash and investment report, the general fund has an overall balance of $18,444,940, of which $14,803,897 is invested. The road fund has an overall balance of $1,486,982, with an amount of $7,767 invested. The flood control district has an overall balance of $1,116,970, with $275,223 invested. The jail district has an overall balance of $3,217,836, with just a little bit over $1 million invested. Total for all funds, $48,873,675, with an investment amount of $18,020,612, for an estimated end of the month balance of $13,105,415.
Okay. Any questions, Supervisor Malera?
No, sir.
Supervisor Reese?
No, thank you,
Mauricio, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I will go ahead and move that we recess our regular session and convene into the flood control district.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Alan, good morning.
Alan, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, it's morning in Hawaii, so let's think positive, right? Good afternoon.
I wanted to start out with the flood control report, kind of like normal with rain. There's been some rain here in Santa Cruz County, as you probably all know, and we continue to have the monsoons here, although below average. Also, all the precipitation gauges within Santa Cruz County has received precipitation within the month of July. Most of the rain has been actually falling here in Nogales. A lot of it also in Patagonia, with the least amount in northern Santa Cruz County around Tubac. Next on my report here, I wanted to talk about some of the permitting and flood hazard information sheet data that we received in July. We've received 126 flood hazard information sheets. 99 of those in unincorporated Santa Cruz County. 26 of those were in the city of Nogales, and 1 in Patagonia. As far as floodplain use permits, we received a total of 10, and 6 of them in unincorporated Santa Cruz County and 4 within the city of Nogales. We did not receive any site reviews this time round in July, but we did get a couple of drainage complaints, one each in Nogales, another one in unincorporated Santa Cruz County. Thank you. Moving on to projects, item 6, Ephraim Canyon project. That particular project, the SOQs closed on July 4th. Statements of qualification and submittals are under review. For the Patagonia mapping, there will be a stakeholders meeting tomorrow in the town starting at 4 o'clock. And some of the things that we'll be going over there, the engineering consultants will be giving presentations on baseline existing conditions within the watersheds of Patagonia. And also stakeholders there will be voicing some of their ideas on alternatives for for flood mitigation within the town. So I'm looking forward to that meeting. I'll be attending. Going on to some of our other projects, we don't have any changes as of the time of report for the Nogales Wash Study, Portrera Creek 404 compliance, or our CRS certification. So hopefully next month we'll have some additional information there.
And all kinds of new funding, right?
Is that because of the switch over in budget?
I don't know. You're supposed to come to us with funding.
That's what
You didn't tell you that was part of the job?
I think we have 1,800,000 and change, according to the report before me.
Okay. We'll talk to Jesus about that. Not telling you that you were supposed to get the funding. Thank you very much, Alan.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Any questions for Alan? No. Okay. Do we have a report from the city of Nogales? Juan, you've been waiting.
Better close our checkbook on this one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank God I have a lot of practice attending the council meetings, so I'm lengthy council meetings. So, just to report that our city Cruz has been just busy as typical during the monsoon season, with removing fallen trees and cleaning arroyos or alcantarillas. We are still, I know the city manager, acting city manager Robert Bermudez had a meeting with county manager Jesus Valdez and about the issues going on the wash, and we are just waiting for following meetings.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you very much. Do we have a report from the town of Patagonia?
There's one attached.
Yeah. Yes, this is Bill O'Brien, the town engineer for Patagonia.
Hi, Bill.
Hi. Just a couple points. One, there is a flood and flow group, the advisory to the town. That's a committee advisory to the town. In our last meeting, there was a couple of highlights. One is how the U.S. Forest Service has made town of Patagonia, along with Santa Cruz County, participating agency reviewing the Hermosa project. So that's been helpful. I'd like to acknowledge the work of some of the recent presentations that we've had. One's with a group called Water for Arizona that specializes in rural water issues. And let's see, one more item is that the University of Arizona Water Resources Center has put together a drought response for water resilient communities. And there's some funding from the federal agencies along that category. So at our next flood and flow meeting on August 13th, there'll be a presentation on that. We've had in School Canyon, there's a old Conservation Corps debris dam and diversion dam that's been breached, and we're seeking help on that from the Forest Service, and also we've approached Alan on that from the county. We're grateful that the flood mitigation studies proceeding so well, and looking forward to that. That's on August 2nd, tomorrow night. Patagonia, you're all welcome to come to hear the progress on that. So I think I'd like to leave it with that. Keep it short, but if you have any questions, please contact me or town manager. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Alan, if you could give me a brief on what's going on with that breach and that floodway offline, you don't have to do it right now. Okay, this is time for public comment in the flood control. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make a comment and call to the public for flood control? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will move we adjourn our flood control district and convene into the jail district.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We are in the jail district. Item 1, discussion possible action for authorization to fill vacancies for the detention corporal and the booking clerk position.
Move to approve and their budgeted items.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, they are budgeted items.
Rudy seconded it.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2, discussion possible action to approve change order amendment to the cooperative purchase agreement with APIC Solutions, Inc., initially entered November 1st, 2022, for an additional $47,102.11 for fiber upgrade to the jail surveillance system.
Move to approve.
Supervisor Malera? I'll second. Is it under discussion, Sheriff? Or Juan? Or who would like to, is there somebody from the Sheriff's Department who'd like to talk? Joe, okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Members of the board.
Good afternoon.
County manager and staff. Commander Marquez, the jail surveillance system, the change orders for the fiber optic. What we found out is that's the last project that, before they complete the project, when they were trying to install the cameras on our existing poles around the perimeter, it went a little too far. So they had to do a change order for the fiber optic, because when they tried to install the digital cameras, it was grainy. Some of them just cut out, and it was because of the old wiring, or cabling. So they requested the change order to install fiber optics so we get a better view.
Terrific. Thank you for that update. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that we adjourn our jail district and reconvene regular session.
I will second that. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
There we go. Now motion carries unanimously. Discussion possible action to approve and adopt proclamation designating August 20th, 2023 as Child Support Awareness Month. You want to read the proclamation, Supervisor Reese?
Absolutely. I will go ahead and read the proclamation and then move for its adoption upon concluding reading the document. Whereas the County of Santa Cruz joins the nation in recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month and reaffirms its commitments to strengthening Arizona's families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. And whereas the state of Arizona will be committed advocates for our children, whose safety and security remains top of mind. And whereas a child who receives emotional and financial support is more likely to feel safe and secure and is better equipped with the courage to be the very best in life. And whereas the Department of Economic Security Division of Child Support Services, DCSS, is robustly committed to putting Arizona's children first and to humbly serving Arizonans with excellent respect and integrity and kindness, as well as being an overall champion of economic growth and opportunity. And whereas DCSS strongly advocates for parenting responsibilities because parents and children benefit when both are engaged and their child at every stage, regardless of marital status. And whereas DCSS recognizes the commitment of legal guardians who accept the responsibilities of children in the absence of parents. And whereas strengthening individuals and families with an emphasis on fiscal responsibility promotes the safety and well-being of children, provides stability, improves the lives of children, and provides opportunities for families to be able to enhance their children's future. And whereas Child Support Awareness Month values parents' involvement in their child's life and who make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. Now, therefore, the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors proclaims August 2023 as Child Support Awareness Month, proclaimed and adopted this first day of August 2023. Bruce Bracker, Chairman; Rudy Moleta, Member; Manuel Ruiz, Vice Chairman. I move for its adoption, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Aye, and motion carries. Item 2, discussion possible action to approve Hermosa USA Social Investment Application HER 00001 with South 32 Inc. to operate the Tecnológicas program, after-school robotics program, and adult education classes for fiscal year 24, granting the Santa Cruz County School Superintendent's Office in the amount of $111,000.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
And under discussion, Mr. Chairman, as a school board member, I will not put any kind, I will not be bought by this $111,000. Our children need whatever advantage they have. During the COVID crisis, they bought laptops for children. They helped with internet, and it's not for anything else. And you can shake your hands and you can do that, but I know that our kids need this support. And the Tecnológicas, if you are not aware, is a program for young ladies from middle school to be engaged, to become very aware of what STEM is: science, technology, mathematics, and I can't remember what's the E for.
Let's ask Mr. Young to speak.
Huh?
Let Mr. Young speak.
So I'll let you speak. I'm defending your.
Good morning, Chairman Bracker, Supervisor Moleta, Supervisor Ruiz.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak about our program. I just want to clarify exactly what we do in the program. I think that's the most important part of this. Tecnológicas is an international initiative of the National Center for Women and Information Technology and the Televisa Foundation. It's designed to raise awareness among young women, especially Latino women, and their families about opportunities and careers in technology. This program is operated through the middle schools here in the county. Pretty much every middle school operates it. It's for 2 to 3 hours every week after school. Like I said, it's operated by the middle schools, which means the instructor is usually a teacher at the school. And what they do in the classroom is they learn about coding, and they also watch videos about successful women, Latina women that are in STEM careers. Currently, there's about, I believe it's 2% Latina women in STEM careers, or in STEM careers currently in the world. This program has been operated since 2017, so we're moving into our 7th year of the program. The next program that this is sponsoring is the robotics. It's an after-school program for 3rd through 5th graders. And once again, they meet 2 to 3 hours a week. Once again, it's taught by a teacher there at the school. And how it was described to me by an instructor was learning to code is much like learning a language. So the younger you learn to code, the easier it is moving forward. And so that's why our office feels this program is so important for the elementary kids. No matter whatever STEM career they decide to have moving forward, this is vital. And then the last program that this is going to support is our adult education program here in Santa Cruz County. We used to have our classes at the 1904 courthouse, which obviously isn't an academic environment for adults. And so we now have moved it to the Santa Cruz Center, which is where the U of A is and where Pima Community College is. And so this will allow our students, over 200 students here from the county, to be around an academic environment related to the U of A and Pima. So that's where this funding is going. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Supervisor Malera? Did we lose you? Is Supervisor Malera on?
Okay.
In here.
Did he hear?
There he is.
Hi, Supervisor Malera, did you vote?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did you vote?
What I said.
I didn't hear it. He said nay? Did you say aye or nay? Is he muted?
No.
Supervisor Miller, can you hear us?
Can.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Was that an aye or a nay?
Aye, sir.
Aye. And so the motion carries unanimously. Item 3, discussion possible action to approve memorandums of agreement with South 32 Inc. for the 2023-2024 school year funding for elementary robotics after-school program in the amount of $51,500, Tecnolochicas lift program in the amount of $37,000, Santa Cruz County continuing education program in the amount of $22,500.
Move to approve.
And I will second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We can't hear you, Rudy. Discussion possible action, item 4, discussion possible action to approve authorization for services. Number 4 was C&S Engineers, Inc. for fuel tank replacement design services in the amount of $156,570.
Move to approve.
And I will second. And special projects, who, under discussion?
Mary.
Mary, is this a fuel tank farm at the airport?
Good afternoon. Thank you. Yes, this is a federal grant in order to get the design underway for new fuel tanks, bring them up to 21st century standards. And then we're hoping that in a year or so we'll get the grant for construction.
We're sure you're going to find the money, Mary. That's great. Thank you. So, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Yay! Thank you, Supervisor Malera. Item 5, discussion possible action to approve cooperative purchase agreement with Granite Construction Company for the procurement of asphalt materials in a 1-year contract with up to 4 annual renewals.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item
Chair, I was
six-
having internet issues here. I'm sorry.
Item 6, discussion possible action to approve intergovernmental agreement number 23-0009293I with the state of Arizona for Interstate I-19 interchange projects at Rio Rico Drive and Ruby Road in the amount of $8,600,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second under discussion.
Mr. Chair, Santa Cruz County requested funding assistance from State Representative Gail Griffin for the I-19 interchange project at Ruby Road, which is exit 12, and the Ruby Road, Rio Rico Drive, exit 17. Representative Griffin assisted the project by requesting $8.6 million. Senate Bill 1722 appropriated the funds to the county for these projects.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 7, discussion possible action to approve rental agreement with Election Systems and Software, Inc., ES&S, for election equipment for a 1-year term and up to 4 annual renewals in the amount of $79,744.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a second, and under discussion, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Hey, motion carries unanimously. We heard you on that one, Rudy.
Good.
We're on item I, consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that we approve the consent agenda as it appears on our agenda, items 1 through 15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. He said aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We heard you on that one again, Rudy. Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Yep. No, we're not adjourning. Item 14, approval of minutes from 7:18.
No, they were part of the consent.
Oh, yay.
I said 1 through 15, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, my God.
I think you need to get something.
I gotta get used to this thing. So I move to adjourn. I have a second.
Second.
Any